Back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway, ESPN Speed World on hand for the first Union 400 Winston Cup race. North Wilkesboro, North Carolina is located almost directly north of Charlotte and west of Greensboro in the northwestern portion of the state of North Carolina. The track description, it's 0.625 miles in length. The banking is at 13 degrees. The pole lap time was 19.145 seconds. The pole speed, a new track record, 117.524 miles an hour, and the race length is 400 laps. Now, we'll take a look at the starting lineup for today's race. 32 cars and drivers are set to compete. And the pole sitter for the second time in 1989 is going to be Rusty Wallace. He's from St. Louis, Missouri, and will start in the number 27 Kodiak Pontiac. Outside of row number 1, it's Jeff Bodine from Chemung, New York, the points leader in Winston Cup, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet number 5. Dale Earnhardt starts in third position of the GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. The car number is 3. On the outside of that second row will be Mark Martin from Batesville, Arkansas. He drives the number 6 Stroh Light Ford. Beginning from fifth position will be Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford Thunderbird. And alongside him in the sixth starting position is Sterling Marlin from Columbia, Tennessee. He'll be in the number 94 Sunoco Oldsmobile. Terry Labonte will start from inside row number 4 in the number 11 Budweiser Ford. Terry's from Corpus Christi, Texas. And then in eighth starting position, it's Ricky Rudd from Chesapeake, Virginia, in the number 26 Quaker State Buick. The fifth row has Michael Waltrip and Dick Trickle. In the sixth row, Neil Bonnet and Rick Mast. Then it is Alan Kowicki, Ben Hess in row number 7, Darrell Waltrip and Jimmy Means in row number 8. You'll notice as we take a look at the rest of the starting lineup that some relative surprises are up there in the middle part of the grid. Jimmy Means with a good qualifying performance. Larry Pearson and Hut Strickland are in row number 12. Notice in row number 14 that Rodney Combs is scheduled as the driver of car number 60. He will not start that car, however. For an explanation of who will, here's Jerry Punch.
Well, Bob, Phil Parsons did not make the show here, and Rodney Combs, who needs every chance he can get to get exposure to looking for a full-time ride, is making his first start in the Bob Bilby-owned Chevrolet Monte Carlo. It's the same car that Junior Johnson had Terry Labonte set on the pole and win this race a year ago. Bob Bilby out of Lansing, Michigan bought the car and brought Rodney Combs here to drive it. Well, Phil Parsons needed to start the car for the points. The option was up to Rodney Combs. If he wanted to start the car, it was his ride. Combs said, nope, let Phil Parsons start it. He's my colleague. He needs the points, and maybe if I'm involved someday in a point battle, someone will do the same thing for me. And I got to believe the sacrifice Rodney Combs made indicates he'll make it someday in this sport.
Rodney Combs will jump into the number 60 car after the race is started by Phil Parsons. Our crew cam today is being worn by the legendary Junior Johnson. He, of course, has his shops just down the road from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway, and he has been so successful on this track. Junior will carry the in-car camera, at least a member of his crew will be doing so, as there you can see it mounted on the side of the headset that individual is wearing, and that's how it looks from his vantage point. Jerry?
Well, that's actually Randy Moose, who is the gas man for Junior Johnson, and Randy is the smallest of the Moose boys. He is 6'5", 265 pounds. He's what they call the runt of the litter up here. He's from Statesville. Both of his brothers go well over 300 pounds, so throughout today, we'll be moving that crew cam around here in the Budweiser crew, and you probably will see it with Junior Johnson on board before the afternoon is over. Bob?
And one more lap. We'll be getting the green flag to start this race. And there is a look at Neil Bonnet as he communicates with his crew on the radio and scuffs in the tires as he warms his tires up, getting ready to go. He'll start the race on Hoosiers this afternoon, and there is the view that he has as Michael Waltrip is right ahead of him. And that's where our second in-car camera is. Michael Waltrip, who had such a successful run last week at Bristol, although he had problems during the race, at times looked very, very strong in the number 30 Country Time Lemonade Pontiac. And there's his salute to us and the fans as he gets set to go 400 laps of competition.
We see them weaving the cars back and forth across the track. Rusty Wallace said that it took a little time to get the Goodyears heated up. That's what they're trying to do now, is to seat those tires in, heat them up, but they're about ready to go.
Pace car pulls off the track. The fans stand and cheer as the field comes down for a start of the first Union 400, and the race is underway. Rusty Wallace with a good jump on the field as he has a couple of car length advantage as they go down the backstretch the first time on Jeff Bodine. Running third is Dale Earnhardt, and fourth is Mark Martin at the completion of lap 1. Battle back there for fourth position as Bill Elliott in number 9 takes the spot away, or at least tries to take the spot away from Mark Martin. Here comes the 94 car of Sterling Marlin on the inside also as they cross the stripe. Bill Elliott has moved into fourth position. The battle is for fifth, Marlin and Mark Martin.
We can see that there's several cars that can maintain their speed on the outside. Mark Martin here, one of them, pretty much keeping up on the high groove, and that's unusual for Wilkesboro, especially this early.
Mark Martin up high on the racetrack is getting past. Marlin has successfully gone around. Here comes Terry Labonte in the number 11 car, and Michael Waltrip in number 30 trying to go to the inside of Mark Martin. So there may be something wrong with that Mark Martin car.
I think he was just caught on the outside. As Gary mentioned, he was doing a good job out there, but still the inside groove this early in the race is place to be. He now has tucked it in there behind.
Jerry, what have you observed from down there on the Mark Martin car?
Well, Bob, just before the green flag, I spoke with Mark Martin, and they were really thrashing on the car all morning. He said, we're going to be out to lunch when we drop the green flag because we changed all 4 springs, we changed shocks, we changed everything on the car. We're going to be backsliding in the field till we get a chance to get it away. So Bodine making a move on Rusty Wallace in turn 1. It's already getting exciting up front, Bob.
Indeed it is. There's a 3-car battle for the lead. Rusty Wallace is trying desperately to hold on to that top spot, but here comes Jeff Bodine on the inside in turn number 3. He's getting some punishment from Dale Earnhardt there in number 3. I think that those two might have touched briefly in turn number 3, and here's a change of lead as Jeff Bodine goes on top, and here comes Dale Earnhardt right behind him. Rusty slipped from first to third.
And I think that we're seeing the tire situation change right quickly there. Rusty on the bi-sply tires, they ran good for a few laps, and then the Goodyear started coming in.
Yeah, that's the reason Rusty had to pull. The tires worked good right off the bat. He got a good jump on the start of the race, had about 10 car lengths on Jeff. 3 or 4 laps later, Jeff caught him and passed him and took Dale Earnhardt with him.
So perhaps a Rusty Wallace is looking for an early caution that would allow him to come in and change those Hoosier tires to the Goodyears. At any rate, it is Goodyear up front, first and second, with Bodine and Dale Earnhardt, and then Rusty Wallace running in third position. Jeff Bodine, the only person in Winston Cup racing to lead every race so far this year, and he has kept the string alive here at North Wilkesboro.
You can see the first 3 cars and coming into your screen now. The yellow car in 5th place back there is Michael Waltrip. He started in 9th place and has already moved up to 5th. He had an awfully good run last week at Bristol, and he's moving on here today, coming up on Bill Elliott.
You see that high mom on his dashboard there?
Michael Waltrip is in 5th position right behind Bill Elliott, and he is making a good run here in the early going. Meanwhile, up front, it's still Bodine and Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace. Earnhardt closing in to about a car length, now shortens it to less than a car length in turn number 4. And here is Darrell Waltrip caught on the outside in car number 17. To his inside is Alan Kowicki in the 7 car. That's Mark Martin and Sterling Marlin in the 2 blue cars running side by side. Right now, Waltrip is in 10th position as he tries to find the faster group, now moving down to the inside and perhaps has found the way around Sterling Marlin.
And here's a spin. Car number 25 of Ken Schrader has spun around, but they were told in the drivers meeting this morning that for a spin, if the driver doesn't appear to be in trouble and he keeps the car going, we're not going to throw a caution. NASCAR said we don't want to react too quickly, and they didn't in that particular case, so they left the green flag out.
And one car moving very slowly on the racetrack. In fact, coming into the pit area is Harry Gant. Already a winner this year in Winston Cup competition. Harry had a very poor qualifying performance, was really the slowest qualifier to make the field. The 31st and 32nd spots were provisionals. Harry Gant, who also lives just down the road in Taylorsville, North Carolina, is in for an early pit stop. Now you can see the leaders are beginning to lap the slower cars already as they pass by Hud Strickland in car number 57. Here's Bodine and Dale Earnhardt still running first and second.
You know, pulled away from Rusty Wallace by a couple of seconds.
They're pulling away from Rusty Wallace, but Bill Elliott just slowly catching Rusty Wallace. But who's really running, it looks like, is Michael Waltrip, gaining on all of them.
There's Rusty going by, and you'll see that he has lost quite a bit of ground on the first and second place cars. So we are 16 laps into the first Union 400 from North Wilkesboro. They're the top 5, and we'll be right back. Back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway, where Jeff Bodine, the number 5 Levi Garrett Chevrolet, leads the number 3 GM Goodwrench Chevrolet, driven by Dale Earnhardt. Harry Gant has gone behind the wall. Benny Parsons, what's the problem down there?
Bob Jenkins on with Leo Jackson, the owner of the Skull Bandit. Leo, what happened? Well, Benny, I'm not sure. I think we tore off a ring gear and pinion. Okay, they think the rear end's gone in the car. They'll put a new one in and continue in the race.
I don't think any of us really were in a position. Oh, as the Morgan Shepherd gets loose in turn number 4, is being lapped by both Bodine and Earnhardt. I think maybe Gant slowing coming off of corner number 2 may have contributed to that spin by Ken Schrader a few laps ago.
I think that might have been the case. He apparently, if the rear gearing did come out of it, it happened all of a sudden, and he would have had to slow down, and Schrader apparently bumped him or got bumped and spun around. Of course, Schrader continues to run, but he is a lap down. Here's Michael Waltrip really on the move.
And this is the battle for third position as Michael Waltrip in the Country Time Pontiac has third place, passing Rusty Wallace. Jerry Punch.
This is no surprise at all that Michael Waltrip is running so well. They thought they had a shot at winning the pole, and Waltrip just not get a good lap in qualifying. It's the same car they ran at Bristol last week on ESPN, and he made up 3 laps, almost made up the 4th lap to get back in the lead lap and have a shot at winning. And remember, Kenny Wilson, the engine builder for this team, came over there from Richard Petty, and so they really have stout motors. Earnhardt making a move on the outside. We got action everywhere here at Bristol. Bob?
Oh, man, some great racing here. 3 abreast as they cross the stripe. Dale Earnhardt's going to get the lead. That's Greg Sachs in the number 88 car that got between Bodine and Earnhardt, and Dale found himself in the right position and now leads, becomes the 3rd leader in the first Union 400.
There's Lake Speed in car number 83 going a lap down. He's another of those drivers that's using the Hoosier tires. And I think what everybody thought that the Goodyears, once you ran a few laps, that they would come in, and boy, they are.
Here is Darrell Waltrip moving to the inside of Rusty Wallace, and you can see that Rusty on those Hoosiers doesn't have what it takes to stay up with everybody else. The number 17 car of Darrell Waltrip is on Hoosier, or rather Goodyears, and Bill Elliott is also on Goodyears in the number 9 car.
It's almost become like 2 groups of race cars, the ones with Hoosiers and the ones with Goodyears. The Hoosier cars are racing each other. Here's a group of Goodyear cars, Darrell Waltrip, Bill Elliott, and Alan Kowicki all on the Goodyears going by Rusty Wallace, who's the leader of the Hoosier cars.
And that number 75 car that we saw loose in turn number 4 a few laps ago that you can see on the outside of the racetrack there in turn number 4, that's Morgan Shepherd. He is on Hoosiers.
And he has already gone a lap down.
Boy, you know, when Ken Schrader spun earlier, I bet Rusty was hoping for that caution period to get those tires off and get on the radials.
You know, speaking of cautions at this race, this is really a race that has not had that many caution periods down through the years. In 1971, as a matter of fact, this race was run with no cautions whatsoever. The most laps under caution at this racetrack was in 1980, when 113 of the 400 laps were under caution.
Now we see the Waltrip brothers getting together again. This is Michael in the Country Time Lemonade car, and Darrell Waltrip right behind him. Remember the last time they were together?
Yes.
At Bristol last week? Well, Darrell was behind, tapped Michael a little bit, and spun him around. But I expect he'll drive a little bit more carefully. They're fighting for position right now.
Yeah, you can see Darrell. He's really trying. There he is on the outside trying to get it. He's almost up. No, couldn't quite get it. Trying the outside, try the inside. Michael's really doing a good job of holding him off.
Well, Darrell started back in the 15th position, so he has really come up through the pack.
This is the battle for third spot. It is Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine first and second, and then Michael Waltrip in third position and Darrell Waltrip in that 4th spot. And there you can see the way that it looks out the rear glass on the Country Time Pontiac, driven by Michael, as Darrell tries to go inside, then pulls behind him, then tries to go outside, trying to find the opportunity. There you can see they're passing the number 83 car, driven by Lake Speed, who is on the Hoosier tires. And here comes Alan Kowicki to join in the battle.
Alan has moved up to the 5th position. Hey, there he zipped her in there, just drove a little deeper into the turn and went right on by.
You could hear Michael get off the accelerator, and boy, Darrell was right there to nail it and pass him.
That was a good move on Darrell put on his brother. He really set him up, and at the right moment, he just shot by him.
Now Michael will run along and say, well, big brother, can you teach me anything? Well, it's really not big brother because Michael is bigger than Darrell, but Darrell is the oldest. Said, can you teach me anything? I'll follow you around here a little bit, see what you're doing.
And we'll follow him around here a bit. As we can see, Dale Earnhardt, with a little bit of a problem there, getting by Davey Allison in number 28 and Ben Hess in car number 40. Both of those cars, Davey Allison and Ben Hess, on the Hoosiers. Here is Dale Earnhardt moving to the inside now, the 21 car, driven by Neil Bonnet, another Hoosier driver.
And Neil started in the 11th position. He's been running hard, but I'll tell you, those tires are just making such a big difference.
Now there are 16 cars on the lead lap. Leo Mell, in his interview that we heard with Benny Parsons at the top of the race, said there were 15 that started on Hoosiers. Well, recheck there, Leo. There were 17. There were a couple of late, just before the race started, a couple of drivers switched over to the Goodyears. So 17 started on the Goodyears and 15 on the Hoosiers. And there are 16 cars that are currently on the lead lap with 38 laps completed. We're live for the First Union 400 at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway, and we'll return after these messages.
One of the big questions in NASCAR racing this year is the difference between the radial and the bias ply tire. Now, the bias ply tire has been around in Winston Cup racing forever. The radial tire is fairly new. The difference isn't really visible from the outside. It's the way the tires are constructed, the inside fabric that's different. Now, if we took one thread of one fabric of the bias ply tire and we followed it, that one thread would come up the sidewall on an angle like this, across the tread, and down the other side. Now, that is a bias ply tire. The radial tire now, it starts, the same thread would start right here and go straight across the tread and straight down the other side. Now the radial tire has a lot more strength this way. You can see because the threads are holding it. The radial tires don't want to grow. Now the bias ply tire with the thread angled like this, it has a lot of sidewall strength. It doesn't want to give in the turns. It doesn't have such a wandering feeling in the turns. Now, the development over the radial tires has taken place in passenger cars. For about the last 15 years, they've been on all production cars. They're new, relatively new to Winston Cup racing because of this sidewall flex, but the engineers have really developed a better and better tire, and it looks like they're here to stay.
A very graphic and quite detailed explanation of the difference between the bias ply and the radial.
That was a super job that Gary Nelson did. They're explaining that, and certainly I think they are here to stay, Gary, after what we've seen here in the first 50 or so laps of this race.
Well, so far what we're seeing, I think, is that Goodyear, all the Goodyear cars seem to be superior over the Hoosier tire cars, but it's the radial, I think, that isn't growing. The tire is staying very, very consistent. Where the Hoosiers took off, with Rusty Wallace got the lead. As soon as the tires got hot, started growing, the stagger changed. The size differences changed on those Hoosiers, and then he had to fall back, where the Goodyears are steady lap after lap.
All right, on the track, some good racing going on. Dick Trickle is there, the number 84 car, and right behind him is the 11 car driven by Terry Labonte. As they work on the 52 car of Jimmy Means, he is a lap down. But the number 84 car of Dick Trickle is now in 7th spot, and Terry Labonte in number 11 is in 8th spot. Jerry, what's your observation for the pit area on this tire situation?
Interesting conversation this morning between Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt in Dale Earnhardt's van, and I was in there listening, and they were joking back and forth. Earnhardt told Rusty, said, hey, I'm going to lap you in about 60 laps, and Rusty said, well, not if we get a yellow flag, you won't. Rusty told me that their dilemma is this. He said, if I get a half a lap down after about 30 laps, we really can't afford to come in and pit under green because we have to change all 4 tires. That's going to be 22 to 25 seconds minimum. We're going to lose another lap, maybe a lap and a half. I'll be at least 2 laps down. Then I really got my work cut out for me. But I need a yellow flag, and that's exactly what he predicted would happen. That's exactly what's happening here at Wilkesboro. Bob?
He's all the way back to 11th position, Jerry. Rusty Wallace, whose tires just apparently can't keep up with the Goodyear radials, at least at this point in the race. So, yeah, Rusty Wallace would like very much to see a caution, certainly not for an accident or anything, but maybe a little bit of debris on the racetrack would be just what Rusty Wallace would like. Now, here's Dale Earnhardt moving to the inside of the 94 car and lapping Sterling Marlin. So now Marlin is one of those again on Hoosiers, and now there are 14 cars on the lead lap.
And Sterling Marlin started in the 6th position. just to give you an idea of how fast Earnhardt is running. And Marlin is running good out there, but it's the difference in the tires. And here Darrell Waltrip has caught Jeff Bodine.
Battle for second position. They go around Greg Sachs, who is not on the lead lap any longer. Here's Waltrip now moving to the inside of Jeff Bodine at the entrance to turn number 4, side by side as they come off the corner. It looks like that Darrell Waltrip is going to take the position away. Indeed he does. So now it is Earnhardt the leader. Waltrip is second, Jeff Bodine to third.
Boy, Waltrip has really come up through the field. He started in 15th position, now running in second position. He said that when he went out to qualify, he just didn't feel confident with the radial tires. He said he didn't drive it down into the corner as hard as he needed to. He said starting 15th, that's not too bad. He said the more I run on these tires, the better I like them. And apparently he's liking them very well right now.
Well, as you watch Dale Earnhardt going up the back straightaway, he wasn't very far off on the prediction that he was telling Jerry Bunch about. What are we, 55 laps into the race, and Earnhardt is only about 5 seconds away from lapping Rusty Wallace, and he said he'd do it in 60 laps. I think it'd be, at this pace, maybe about 70, 75 laps, but Dale Earnhardt sure is gaining on Rusty Wallace.
Here is 6th, 7th, and 8th as Dick Trickle in the number 84 car continues to work well. There he is right ahead of Michael Waltrip. Trickle right now is in 6th. Waltrip is in 7th. And the number 11 car of Terry Labonte is back in 8th position. Dick Trickle with another fine run, I tell you. The Stavola brothers have got to be very pleased with Dick Trickle's performance. As you see, Terry Labonte pass to the inside of Michael Waltrip going into turn number 1. Stavola brothers have got to be very pleased with Dick Trickle's performance in the substitute role for Mike Alexander.
He has done a great job. Of course, he has a lot of short track experience, but he not only has run well on short tracks, he has run well on the super speedways. Greg Sachs coming into the pits, he had gone 2 laps down. He started on the Hoosier tires. He fought it as long as he could. He's going to come in and put on some Goodyear. Or no, he's not. He's putting on Hoosier tires, I believe. Yeah, no, he's putting on Goodyear. I beg your pardon. I'm looking down in the pits as we watch Michael Waltrip go around the track. Here's Greg Sachs.
And they are changing all 4 tires on the Crisco Pontiac driven by Greg Sachs. He's got 4 Hoosiers on now, or rather 4 Goodyears on now.
Well, that's a tough decision to make, but I think it was a good decision. There are some others out there that are going to have to do the same thing before too long, because as I said, he had already gone 2 laps down, and you can't afford just to stay out there and keep going, because you can make up that difference in the time that you lose in the pits very quickly, according to the way these Goodyears are running.
Well, if you were crew chief, Gary, would you call Rusty and some of the others in?
Exactly what I was going to talk about, Bob. The rule of thumb that I always go by as a crew chief is, if you're having problems and you know it's a serious problem, you got to stop right away. But if it's a slow developing problem where you know in a matter of time you're going to get lapped, you try and hold out for the caution. If you don't think there's going to be a caution, you wait till the leader laps you. That lap, you should come in and get your fresh tires. You know that a caution won't help you once you're lapped, but if you stay out there any longer, then you're going to lose more and more time. As we watch Jeff Bodine going, it looks like Alan Kowicki's about ready to take over that position.
Indeed he is. Alan Kowicki in car number 7, right behind Jeff Bodine now. This is the battle for 3rd spot. There's Ernie Irvin in car number 2 at the rear of this string of cars, and Eddie Beerschwale at the front. Irvin with a great performance last weekend, but here is Alan Kowicki trying to take away 3rd from Jeff Bodine. They go into corner number 1 side by side. Looks like Kowicki's going to have the better momentum coming out of the corner, although Jeff battles back on the outside. Now Kowicki makes the pass and goes to 3rd.
The story I got on talking with a lot of the drivers and crew members this morning was that the radial tires made the cars want to push a lot worse. It almost looks like some of them are getting loose to me.
Darrell Waltrip is catching up with Dale Earnhardt. Look at him move right up on the back bumper. His car is really working.
Just a super run in the early going for Darrell Waltrip. They come off corner number 4, and Waltrip will pull side by side with Dale Earnhardt. Jim Sauter is right ahead of him in car number 31. Still side by side. Waltrip down the backstretch may have Earnhardt. Yes, he does. Darrell Waltrip goes to the point, and there are 4 leaders so far in the First Union 400.
Another driver who has changed from the Hoosier to the Goodyear under green flag conditions is Lake Speed. He goes back out. You can see his red and white number 83 coming back onto the track right there as that pack of cars goes around.
2 and 3 abreast racing here. There's Waltrip in some heavy traffic now, as Dale Jarrett is on the inside and Morgan Shepherd swings high to allow Darrell Waltrip to pass Looks like Dale's got some damage on the right side of that car already, as the bumping and banging at North Wilkesboro is a tradition here. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday afternoon for Winston Cup. We'll be right back. 72 laps completed out of 400 in the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. The leader is number 17, Darrell Waltrip. There you can see his 88 finishes. Yeah, here at North Wilkesboro. He has won 5 races in a row at North Wilkesboro from 1981 through 83. Here's a good battle on the track. That's Brett Bodine in car number 15 and the number 11 car of Terry Labonte.
Brett has really come up through the field. He started in 20th position and now has moved up to what, 7th position?
Couple of Fords going at it here. The Bud Moore Ford, number 15, and Junior Johnson's number 11. It's been a tough struggle for Junior Johnson this year, getting that Ford dialed in, but it's running well at this point. There you can see Brett Bodine and Terry Labonte. Gary, you mentioned zero stagger in your open, and we talked about how there is zero stagger for this race. Why was that decision made?
Well, it's something that the Goodyear has to decide on beforehand. It's a predetermined size on the tires, and really what they've done is at most tracks they run a softer tire on the left side than they run on the right side. At this particular track, they've decided to run a hard tire or a harder tire on the right front, the right rear, and the left rear. So really the 3 tires on those positions on the car are the same, so the sizes are the same. The only tire that's a little bit smaller is the left front, so there's a little bit of stagger, like we say, in the front, but zero stagger in the back because the tires are a preset dimension.
There's third place Alan Kowicki, who now begins to move on. Second place Dale Earnhardt. Let's go down to Benny Parsons, who's with Travis Carter, owner of the Rick Mast mount. Benny, what's the story down there?
Travis Carter, the story is you've switched from Hoosier to Goodyear. Why is that?
Well, Benny, the Hoosier tires ran good qualifying, but as the race went on, the Goodyear obviously was going to be better. We saw that yesterday, and we planned to switch. It's just unfortunate that we had to run as long as we did on the Hoosiers. We really lost a lot of ground. We elected to put the Goodyears on and try not to lose any more time.
Thank you, sir.
Travis Carter watching Rick Mast try to get back into a competitive situation, and there you can see that number 17 Waltrip, the leader, has lapped the pole sitter Rusty Wallace. Obviously Rusty, struggling with those Hoosier tires, goes a lap down on lap number 79.
You see Larry Pearson coming out of the pits. He has just changed to Goodyear. A number of drivers have been in. Dale Jarrett changed to Goodyear, and Lake Speed, who is running right in front of Darrell Waltrip. You see the red and white car, number 83. He came in, put on the Goodyear tires, and has passed Darrell Waltrip once he got back out on the racetrack. So the fresher Goodyears apparently are better than the older Goodyears. Davey Allison coming into the pits now. He's going to get some Goodyears on his car.
Well, as you watch Darrell Waltrip, he passed Rusty Wallace to put him a lap down. Now is the time for Rusty to come in the pits. Let's go with Jerry in the pits.
Now we're in the Darrell Waltrip pits with crew chief Jeff Hammond. And Jeff, you guys really have the car dialed in. You got to be pleased with the way the radials are performing on your car.
Oh, everything right now, Jerry, is just doing super. You know, Darrell's driving the super race, and those Goodyear radials, I mean, they're living up to their expectations. They're really working good. The car is just super right now. I don't know how we're going to get it any better. I just hope that nobody else can get the combination we've got. But it's a long race here at Wilkesboro, and the track has a tendency to change. I just hope we do the right things at the right time.
Big smiles here in the Tide crew, as well as the Goodyear engineers, and Kowicki and Earnhardt mixing it up on the racetrack. Bob?
Yes, they are. As Alan Kowicki tries to pass Dale Earnhardt for second place, you can see Dale Jarrett, who just put on new Goodyears a moment ago, and Larry Pearson. They're coming up there to pass those 2 cars, and those 2 cars had already left them twice before they put on the Goodyear tires.
Quite a story developing here this afternoon as we watch the battle between the drivers and among the drivers, and we watch the battle among the tires, the Hoosiers and the Goodyears, radials against the Pius Flies.
Of course, everybody listening knows that Dale Jarrett is perhaps knows that he is my son, and we talked quite a bit. I talked to Dale last night about 9:30, and I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, I think the Goodyears are going to be the best tires, but he said, I'd like to start on them, but I qualified on the Hoosier, and said I hated to go back to lose my 18th starting position and go all the way to the rear of the field. I'm sure about 10 laps into this race that he wished he had given up that track position.
So Rusty Wallace is being lapped. Earlier in the weekend, we asked him, did you sacrifice anything on the tire setup to win the pole position?
I believe I sacrificed a little bit when it comes to tire manufacturer. I decided to go with the Hoosier tires instead of the Goodyear. The Goodyear seems to be pretty quick as you get about 3 or 4 laps into practice. The Hoosier tire seems to be awful fast right off the bat. And when you qualify, you've got to get it done right away. So there's a possible chance when the race starts, if the Hoosier starts falling off that badly, I'll come in and put the Goodyears on. And if not, I might do it anyway.
Well, Rusty is in that position right now, as he would like very much to see a caution period so that he can come in and get another brand.
9 drivers have already come in and changed to the Goodyear from the Hoosiers.
Well, Rusty Wallace that team is used to coming from behind. He is behind right now, but how many wins have we seen him, how many trophies have we seen him take home from a lap or 2 down early?
Very true. You don't count this race over by any means. We could have a completely different type of story by the time that the last quarter of the race rolls around. Battle on the racetrack. The number 11 car is Terry Labonte, the 9 is Bill Elliott, and the 30 is Michael Waltrip. And we're watching 9th and 10th, rather 8th, 9th, and 10th, as Labonte is in 8th, Bill Elliott in 9th, and Michael Waltrip in 10th. And Michael Waltrip is the last car on the lead lap, so there are 10 currently that are on the lap of the leader.
That's a good shot right there. It's really uphill right here, going up the back straightaway. You can really tell that they're climbing a hill going up into the 3rd turn. Now as they round the 3rd turn, round the 4th turn, it's downhill right here. They're going downhill, down the front straightaway. It's a very unusual racetrack.
Here's Labonte moving to the inside of Hut Strickland, as Hut moves high on the track and allows the faster cars to go by. There you can see that Michael Waltrip has really put together a great season after a bad start at Daytona. And Bill Elliott also beginning to recover from that broken wrist that was suffered in Daytona. I guess you could say because of the radial. That was the type of tire that he was on when it failed, and it caused him to crash and break the wrist. But he is certainly getting over that situation and has performed quite well in the past few races. We're 93 laps into this race, almost a 4th of the way over already, and the leader is Darrell Waltrip. We'll be back in just a moment. Darrell Waltrip, 9 times he has won at North Wilkesboro. There's his serial so far. Started 15th, moved up to 3rd by the end of lap number 40, and took over the lead a few laps ago and continues to hold it as we are exactly 1/4 of the way into the first Union 400. That completed lap number 100. Now, Rusty Wallace, while we were away, did come in for a pit stop and got 4 Goodyear radials.
But he's at least 2.5 laps down now, Bob. He was a lap down before he came in, lost another lap and a half, but you can see the Goodyears have really put him on the move again.
Yeah, Rusty's running good now, the new tires compared to all the cars with the older tires. It's interesting that, you know, all the Goodyear cars have still, none of them have stopped. All the Hoosier tired cars have either stopped or they're 2 or more laps down. So nobody that started on Hoosiers is within 2 laps of the leader right now.
Boy, Rusty's just passing cars right and left there. He went by Ricky Rudd and then Davey Allison. Here is Dick Trickle in car number 84 as he works with the 6 car of Mark Martin. That is a battle for position. Trickle has moved up to 5th. Former track champ, or rather former champion in the ASA division. This is his kind of racetrack. The half-mile racetrack that doesn't have real steeply banked turns. This could be a Dick Trickle day. And right ahead of the leader of the race as he passes Bill Elliott and puts a lap on him, and now Michael Waltrip is about to go a lap down.
Yeah, it hasn't been too long ago that we saw Darrell passing Michael for the 3rd position. So Darrell Waltrip is really getting around this racetrack. However, a number of drivers who have come out of the pits with new tires on have passed him and gone on, including Larry Pearson and Dale Jarrett, Lake Speed, and several others. But he still is running very good and has put a lap on his brother now. Sterling Marlin going down pit road. He's another of the drivers who will perhaps change from the Hoosier to the Goodyear.
And now we have Brett Bodine joining this battle between Trickle and Mark Martin for position. Brett Bodine, car number 15. That's Ricky Rudd on the outside of the racetrack. As Bodine now begins to move in and challenge Mark Martin for 6th position. And there are now only 7 cars that are on the lead lap.
And Ricky Rudd, just we saw him coming into the pits at the top of the screen there a moment ago. He will take his tires off. Let's go to Benny Parsons, who is there.
Well, Ricky Rudd has been on the Hoosier just as long as he can stand it. He's in for a 4-tire change, and sure enough, the Goodyear Eagle, the radial is going on the car. Jimmy Bennett brings the jack around. The left side's going up. Very costly for the fellows who had to start the race on the Hoosiers. Very good pit stop, and Ricky Rudd's away.
Considering it was a 4-tire change, it was done well, and Ricky Rudd moves back out onto the racetrack.
Boy, did you see that left front tire changer? He took the old tire off and just threw it over his head. I hope there was somebody back there to catch it.
And those things weigh what, about 70 pounds or so?
Well, these won't have the inner liners in them, so they're about 45, 50 pounds, but I hope Benny wasn't standing too close. He might have had to catch that tire.
And there is Darrell Waltrip leading, and we'll show you the field as that it stood after 100 laps. There is Darrell Waltrip going to the outside and passing Phil Parsons, who started that number 60 car for Rodney Combs. Rodney is standing by waiting to get in it should we have a caution, but right now this first 4th of the race has been run under green conditions. Let's go back down to Benny Parsons, who can fill us in some more on the tires. Benny?
Bob Jenkins, it is getting nail-biting time, even with the Goodyear radials, because the tires are starting to slip coming up off the corner. I've watched Mark Martin and Dick Trickle come off the corner. The cars are starting to slip, spin a little bit. And everyone is very concerned about how you control a radial tire when the car gets sideways. It's not like the bias ply. So it's nail-biting time, particularly in the Goodyear pits.
Good point, Benny. That's what all the drivers were telling us in the practice and in the qualifying, that you really don't have any indication that something is going wrong when something does go wrong with a radial tire. You can feel the bias ply beginning to have problems, but the radial just jumps out and bites you.
And that unknown and unexpected sometimes can take away a lot of confidence from a driver. But as we mentioned earlier, Darrell Waltrip didn't have the confidence in qualifying that he needed to qualify further up, and he certainly has a lot of confidence now.
Well, the number 11 car has been falling back recently, now shown in 10th position, a lap down. Jerry, what's the problem there?
Well, it's a similar problem that Benny Parsons was talking about and Gary Nelson touched on earlier. They say the car just seems to be way too tight right now, which is a little bit surprising this far in the race. But Tim Brewer said that, Jerry, we just had the car so tight to start with. The car is still quite tight, and it makes the car push coming off the corner. We just can't run on the bottom of the racetrack, and we can't run good times. We'll have to come in and make an adjustment if we can on the car as far as jacking weight around. But right now we're losing a lot of time here in the Budweiser Ford.
Well, that's something about the setup. That tells you something about the way the teams used to set up for bias.
We have a crash.
Tires.
Crash in turn number 2.
Lake Speed, car number 83.
Speed has hit the wall coming out of corner number 2. The car is up against the wall, and this creates our first yellow with 115 laps completed.
Boy,
Dale Jarrett raced Darrell to the line there. Did he get his lap back?
I don't know if he beat him or not. He was awfully close as they went across the start-finish line, so he was trying to get it back, so he's going to claim he did.
There is Lake Speed's car, which is tore up pretty badly in the left front. Obviously some pretty good contact with the wall. You can see the mark on the white cement wall as Darrell Waltrip and the others will be coming in for a tire change. And Jerry Punch is in the Darrell Waltrip pit to call this stop. Jerry?
Well, Bob, they're all pitting right together. Waltrip, Kowicki, and Earnhardt nose to tail here just below the midway of pit road. And the Tide crew now are working on the Waltrip car. You see in the picture, the right side. Jeff Hammond slings the jack around. Will come around to the left side to change tires. Waltrip, who has led now, impressive run on the Goodyear radials, putting left side tires on. Here comes the Earnhardt crew around just in front of Waltrip. They're also working to put left side tires on that car as well. Yes. And Waltrip is out of the way, Kowicki is away, and the Earnhardt crew trying to get him away. Bob Waltrip goes down, and here is Earnhardt down pit road.
And we can see them making a chassis adjustment on the car number 7 of Alan Kowicki. So apparently that car not handling it as well as he wanted it to, so they made a little bit of an adjustment on it.
Well, the 83 car of Lake Speed has been driven away, and now the track crews check turns 1 and 2 and the area out there where the Lake Speed car came to a rest to see if there is any debris on the racetrack or any moisture on the racetrack that will have to be gotten up. First caution of the afternoon is out at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway. Next Sunday evening here on ESPN, same-day delayed coverage of the Panel Sweatshirts 500 from Martinsville Speedway. That should be an interesting contest. A track about the same size as this, but certainly differently shaped, as the Martinsville track has very long straightaways and very tight corners. We'll be there for that 500 lapper next Sunday afternoon, rather Sunday evening at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Now, Lake Speed is responsible for this caution period that we are under right now. Let's go down to Dr. Jerry Punch, who is with him.
Well, you're looking at what's left of the Bullseye Barbecue Oldsmobile. Lake Speed, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. No problem with me. The car's really not hurt that bad. It got the oil cooler there. I think what's going on the racetrack is you got a lot of people that started on the Hoosier tires, and the tires just went away so bad. Everybody's out of sync. We're running along there fairly conservative, steady. And somebody else goes in the pits and gets fresh tires and come out there so much faster. Somebody got underneath me going in the first turn, and I didn't even know they were there. As I turned down for the apex of the corner, next thing you know, you turned around. There ain't no saving it.
Tough break for Lake Speed. Let's check on how the Goodyear tires are wearing up pit road with Benny Parsons. Benny?
Jerry Punch, I'm in the Mark Martin pit. The Stroh's Light Ford Thunderbird has run the entire race on this set of Goodyears. This is the wear mark. This is how you judge how the tire is wearing. And so far in 100 laps, 0 wear. The tire is sticking to the racetrack and not wearing. Looks like they'd run all day.
So an interesting development there, as the Goodyear radials not only are fast, but they are getting very good wear, at least in the first quarter of this race. 121 laps will be complete as they come down to take the green flag and the race resume. Now that's Rusty Wallace in number 27, who is ahead of the field. However, he is 2 laps down, now trying to maintain just 1 lap down, as we're with Michael Waltrip in the Country Time Pontiac. The leader of the race is Darrell Waltrip. There are 7 cars that are on the lead lap, and Rodney Combs has replaced Phil Parsons in the number 60 car, as we had been told during that caution period. Phil Parsons brought the car in, and Rodney Combs is now behind the wheel of number 60.
Well, in all forms of racing, except for stock car racing, they've gone to radial tires in the past 5 or 6 years. These drivers right now are learning the same thing that the IndyCar drivers learned several years ago when they first went to radials. They had to almost relearn the feel of the tire, how to drive the car, how to correct it when it started acting funny. Well, the stock car drivers are pretty sharp. It won't take them long to learn it. Some of these drivers have already had experience driving the IROC cars with radial tires.
We're watching here Earnhardt at number 3, Michael Waltrip at number 30, Sterling Marlin at number 94. The question I have is, when will the radials be suitable for the high-speed tracks, for Talladega, for Daytona?
Well, Goodyear.
Oh, and Rusty is spinning in turn number 2, stacking up a whole bunch of cars behind him. Let's see if anybody else is going to be involved. Rusty with a nice job of just making a complete spin around and keeping going. And no, there will not be a caution flag, as you indicated, Ned. That was the order in the drivers' meeting. As long as the car was able to keep going and nothing else happened, they will continue to run under green, and they are doing so. Here's a replay.
Okay, we see Rusty down on the inside in the 27 car. Here's Darrell Waltrip right behind him. Rusty got a little out of shape. Darrell might have just touched him a little bit. And around he goes.
Boy, Darrell has some good brakes, doesn't he?
He sure does.
And now we're riding with Neil Bonnet, as Rusty Wallace is right ahead of him. Look at Neil fighting the wheel in corner number 1. Oh, he's loose and almost spins, as a matter of fact, coming out of corner 2. Now he gets it straightened out.
Somebody hit him from behind. It almost took his hands off the wheel.
Like it may have been Brett Bodine who gave him a slight bump. And now we see Earnhardt moving in on Darrell Waltrip.
Yes, he is. He's moving up in a hurry. And Waltrip moves to the inside of the track and lets Earnhardt have running room on the outside. Is something wrong with Darrell Waltrip? Or maybe he's just going to cool it a little bit here.
Well, in any case, Dale Earnhardt reassumes command of the First Union 400.
Well, this is different for NASCAR. We've had 2 spins that didn't result in a caution flag. Out of the 3 spins we've had today, we've only had 1 caution flag. What a difference from last week at Bristol, guys.
Well, I think that's a good idea. As long as you know that there isn't a serious accident on the track and a car just spins and keeps going, I don't see a reason to throw the yellow. I think it's a very good policy decision.
Well, one of the considerations, of course, there's always safety is a consideration, but if they're out of harm's way, one of the thoughts was that they can save the team's money because every time a caution comes out, they come in and bolt on 4 new tires, and that's another $750, $800. So we're just trying to save them money.
We're riding with Michael Waltrip, as Darrell, his brother, is just ahead, and so is Jeff Bodine. The cars ahead of him are first, second, and third. Here's the battle for his second spot now. There you can see Earnhardt in the black number 3, way ahead. He's the leader, and immediately ahead of Michael Waltrip is second place Darrell in 17, and third place Jeff Bodine in number 5.
It looks like they must have made some adjustments or something may be wrong with Darrell's car. He's losing a lot of ground to cars that he had already had passed earlier today. And you know Jeff Bodine and some of the other cars made adjustments to their cars so they would be faster, but Darrell may have some kind of a problem here.
Well, Jeff takes second. Waltrip goes to third now. Michael Waltrip also trying to come along. Now, Michael is 1 lap down to the field, so he's just simply trying to get back up front and get a lap back, but it looks like that there might be something wrong with Darrell's car because here comes Alan Kowicki in number 7. There you can see the average speed of 102 and the track record of 100, so we're above the record at this point. Benny Parsons, might you be able to shed some light on Waltrip's problem, or if he does have one?
Darrell Waltrip, Bob, has reported to Jeff Hammond, the crew chief, that the car has developed a miss. They're hopeful that it's nothing but a spark plug wire, and you see them now hastily trying to get a set of plug wires together to put on the tide machine if he should pit.
Meanwhile, Darrell continues to struggle just a little bit, now getting some real pressure from Alan Kowicki. The Waltrip brothers running together again, as we have seen so many times in this race already.
Yeah, Darrell's car down on power for whatever the reason.
And trouble down in turn 2 as Sterling Marlin has spun around in car number 94. You can see the cars going by on the inside. He'll hold it up on the high side of the track and hope that no one goes up there and hits him. And the yellow flag flies again.
And that will bring out the caution flag for the second time this afternoon.
Boy, the leader's slow to a crawl, but the pace car hasn't picked him up yet. Earnhardt's really using his head trying to slow down under the caution flags. That's what the NASCAR officials want all the drivers to do.
Ricky Rudd, by the way, in number 26, did make up one of his 2 lost laps when that yellow came out.
Yes, he was pretty far out in front of Earnhardt, and so that this caution will help him catch up to the back of the field. A couple of cars in the garage area. Jimmy Means and Alka-Seltzer Pontiac went in a little while ago. Here comes the leaders down pit road. Dale Jarrett is in the Hardy's Pontiac with a wheel bearing problem on his car. They are going under the hood on Darrell Waltrip's car, as Benny Parsons indicated that they were going to try to find out what was wrong. Benny, what's going on?
Well, they are taking the shields off the valve covers. They're looking in the back. So far, nothing has taken place. They're checking to see the wires are tight on the distributor cap. Darrell Waltrip trying to wave at them. So far, I don't think they've done anything. I'll check with Jeff Hammond after he leaves Darrell Waltrip leaves.
So Darrell goes back out onto the track under caution. Several other cars choosing to make a pit stop under the caution, including Neil Bonnet and Ricky Rudd and Sterling Marlin. And we have 1 more lap to go, and we'll resume the competition.
Boy, that's a tough thing for Darrell's crew to try and diagnose the problem in about 10 to 15 seconds after he stopped there with the hood open. You know, if it's not something simple like a plug wire, then you don't know really what it is. Let's go down to Benny Parsons for an update.
Jeff Hammond, you looked for about 20 seconds under the hood. Did you see anything wrong?
Couldn't tell anything right off top, Benny. We thought maybe the number 3 plug wire, had gotten against the header, maybe burned it out because it started missing like it was a plug. And it still could be a plug. We may have a bad plug in the car, but the plug wires themselves appear to be A-OK. So, we're just going to try to run on 7 until we get another caution and see if we can, research it a little bit farther.
Okay, they're going back to green, Bob.
Boy, Darrell was running so well, pulling away from just about everybody, and then a problem occurring. We'll see how that has been worked out, if it has. Meanwhile, the race is about to resume on lap number 140. with Dale Earnhardt showing the way in number 3, followed by Jeff Bodine. Then Alan Kowicki. Dick Trickle is running in 4th position. 5th is Brett Bodine. 6th is Mark Martin. And Darrell Waltrip would be shown in 7th position, and those are the only cars that are on the lead lap. We're with Michael Waltrip, who is in 8th position, right behind Jeff Bodine.
He tried to get his lap back, tried to beat Dale Earnhardt on the takeoff, but that didn't work for him, so he's still a lap down.
Kowicki in 7, Trickle in 84, and Brett Bodine back there in 15. The number 25 of Ken Schrader separates Trickle and Bodine, as Ken Schrader in car number 25 is shown as 4 laps down to the field. And I'll tell you, he is having a very dismal season this year. We hope things happen better for Ken Schrader as the season goes along. Let's go down to the pit area once again.
Well, we're down in the Rusty Wallace pit, and Barry Dodson and the crew have been talking. Let's try to find out from Barry exactly what Rusty told him may have happened when Rusty spun a minute ago. Barry, what happened over there when Rusty spun in turn 1?
He didn't spin, Jerry. Darrell spun him out. You know, they got on to us for being over aggressive, trying to get our lap back, and they might have been looking at the wrong car. I don't know. He just drove in the back of us and spun us out.
That sums it up from Barry Dodson.
Rusty Wallace remains 2 laps down. As there you can see he moves to the inside and tries to pass the number 71 car of Dave Marcus. A whole bunch of cars stacked up behind Rusty, including Labonte and Darrell Waltrip and Bill Elliott and the 31 car of Jim Sauter. There are the first 2, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine. We'll be right back. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Gary Nelson, Jerry Punch, and Benny Parsons back at the First Union 400 Winston Cup race at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway. The lead is held by Dale Earnhardt in car number 3. Jeff Bodine is 2nd. Then it's Alan Kowicki. The number 84 car of Dick Trickle is 4th. And then back in 5th position is the number 15 car, driven by Brett Bodine. There you can see Brett, who's behind Dale Jarrett and Ken Schrader. But right behind Brett Bodine is the number 11 car, driven by Terry Labonte. He is 1 lap down in 13th position. And this is the way that it looked on that last Terry Labonte pit stop from our crew cam being worn by Randy Moose.
Boy, he didn't put much gas in, did he? The gas isn't much of a factor here so far today.
Changing the tires, removing them from the left side of the race car. And the pit stop by Terry Labonte completed. So he's 11th, rather 13th, 1 lap down to the field. Mark Martin in the blue car number 6, and here comes Darrell Waltrip in car number 17. That's 6th and 7th. Mark Martin in 6th and Darrell Waltrip in 7th position.
Darrell's losing ground to the leader, but he's still about only a half a lap behind, running on 7 cylinders. I think Jeff Hammond and the crew are probably going to have to keep working on it, trying to find the problem. If it's a 1 cylinder that's, like he was talking, maybe a spark plug or a burned spark plug wire, if they can find that problem, you know how strong that 17 car was running when it was hitting on all 8.
Let's pick up on a thought that we were talking about earlier when we were interrupted by a spin about when the radial tires might be used on the high-speed racetracks. Any idea, Gary?
Well, you know, earlier in the show when they interviewed Leo Mel, the guy from Goodyear who makes those decisions, he said that Goodyear is determined to bring that tire out exclusively in the near future, but he didn't specify how long it would be before they really get going on the super speedways. You know, they brought them out at Daytona for the opening race of the season, and they had a couple cut tires that created problems for the drivers. Bill Elliott breaking his wrist, and Dale Earnhardt it actually tore the whole fender off of his car when the tire cut. As we watched the 6 and the 17 car racing, that's the last 2 cars on the lead lap. Well, Goodyear has really decided to come from the slower tracks up into the big tracks this time, and I think that's a smart decision. What we're seeing here today is very good racing among the cars with the radial tires.
This is one of the slower tracks on the Winston Cup circuit, and that's one of the reasons why Goodyear decided to come here to this particular track with the radials, and certainly they have performed very well. We're still watching this battle for 6th position involving Mark Martin and Darrell Waltrip. Looked like that Darrell was ready to take the spot away there a few minutes ago. Meanwhile, Mark Martin has caught the 15 car of Bodine, and now the battle becomes one for 5th.
Darrell is really getting through the turns, but they pull away from him on the straightaway as a result of not having the power. But you can see he comes off of the turns very good. Now he's moving on the inside of Brett Bodine, so he's staying right there with those cars, battling for position, and takes one position actually. But look how Mark Martin pulls away on the straightaway, but when they get back to the turn, Darrell moves right back up on him. So his car is really handling well.
Oh, he bumps
him. That's a key factor. They did get together a little bit. Martin slid out, and that gave Darrell the opportunity he needed to move on the inside. Is Darrell driving a little more aggressive here than normal?
Well, that's impressive to run on 7 cylinders and to be passing for 6th and 7th. What is he now, 5th position, Bob?
Yes. Let's replay. See Darrell just give Mark a slight mention there.
Yeah, that's coming off of turn 4, and he moves on the inside. That sends Martin up towards the wall just a little bit, and that's all the room Darrell needed to make his move down on the inside, and since then he's pulled away a little bit.
Waltrip moving to, 5th position. There's the leader, Dale Earnhardt, who's having no problems whatsoever. The Jim Goodwrench Chevrolet. His advantage over 2nd place Jeff Bodine is about a half a straightaway. Now we see Dick Trickle and number 84 begin to close in on Alan Kowicki and challenge for 3rd position.
Well, you got to be a fan. Everybody's got to be a fan of Dick Trickle. He's raced all of his life. Well, as we see a spin in the 4th turn, a 31 car of Jim Sauter.
And everybody scrambles to avoid him, and everybody does a nice job of doing so. But the 31 car of Jim Sauter is crossways in the racetrack, turn number 4. And we have our 3rd caution period of the afternoon on lap number 164. Jim Sauter gets the car going again, but the yellow has come out. And now we'll stand by to see if there are more pit stops made.
Well, Terry Labonte has come into the pits on the Budweiser Ford.
As slow as the pace car is running, it allows some of the teams to get into the pits early.
We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the First Union 400 right after these messages. We are back at North Wilkesboro as the green has come back out. We're on lap number 167, and Dale Earnhardt at number 3 is the leader. He's about to lap the Junior Johnson Ford Thunderbird, number 11. Darrell Waltrip is in 2nd position. But he has begun to fall off the pace now just a little bit more. Jerry Punch, can you fill us in?
Well, Bob, the Tide crew are just absolutely sick here. They know that they got an engine problem. They thought maybe it might be a spark plug wire or something simple they could fix. They've checked all the wires. They have checked the distributor. They've checked the ignition. Now they think it must be internal in the engine. They expect it might be a rocker arm off, and they are indeed running on 7 cylinders. Maybe just 6 now that the car is getting a little bit slower, but even at 6 or 7 cylinders, he's still holding his own out here, so the car was very stout to begin with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's standing there in 2nd place, and Jeff Bodine isn't very far behind him. There's Jeff in the yellow and white car number 5, but doesn't really seem to be closing in very much. He's picking him off just a little bit, but nevertheless, Darrell is doing a fine job of holding his own.
Well, especially since he did not make a pit stop the last time and put on new tires, and Jeff Bodine and Dale Earnhardt both did during this last caution period. Now Bodine begins to move in a little bit on the turns and should be able to maybe make a move here in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, Darrell's really got a couple things working against him here. He's got older tires than Jeff has, and he also has less cylinders working for him on his engine. So here's Jeff going up the back straightaway, able to power past.
And here's where you can see the older tires work against Darrell because the car just goes up a little bit in the turn. Jeff's car sticks down on the inside. Here comes Ricky Rudd in the green, number 26, trying to move around him as well.
Well, there were 17 that started this race on Goodyear and 15 on Hoosier. Benny, have you been able to find anybody that's on Hoosiers right now?
No, Bob, I can't. As a matter of fact, I looked around. I even talked to a Goodyear engineer, and I said, who's your competition right now? He said, ourselves. As far as he knows, every car on the racetrack has the new Goodyear radio.
Rusty spins again, but he saves it. I don't think it's going to be a yellow flag, but Rusty gets down on the inside and kicks up a little bit of dirt over there in turn number 2.
Well, Rusty was fighting to get a lap back with Earnhardt, the leader, and they got together somehow.
Well, the best of friends, Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace, off the track, are having a bit of a discussion on the racetrack. Here's a replay.
Okay, we can see Earnhardt in the black car as Rusty dips down under him on the inside. He might get his left tires a little too low as he comes off of that turn. In fact, they touch a little bit, and Rusty just moves around sideways. He doesn't spin all the way around, but you can see the car slide completely sideways. He gets it out on the grass a little bit, gets it righted, heads on up the backstretch after a piece or two falls off of it.
Rusty is a heck of a race driver, isn't he? He's been spun twice today, one from a car in front of him and one from the car behind him.
So now we see Rusty Wallace in his relentless pursuit, but Jeff Bodine in car number 5 is in second position, and Dick Trickle in number 84 has moved to third. The 26 car of Ricky Rudd not a factor. He's laps down. However, look at Dick Trickle and Jeff Bodine go at it.
Well, Ricky Rudd, now that he has gotten on the Goodyears, is running good. He's one lap down. He's currently running in the 9th position. He would like to get up to Earnhardt. Now, this doesn't put him back in the lead lap when he passed Jeff Bodine, but that does put Dick Trickle in second when he passes Jeff Bodine.
The Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin driver Dick Trickle has moved into that second position.
Jeff Bodine is off the pace a little bit. You can see other cars. There's Michael Waltrip coming up on him. As we see another pack of cars back here running, Darrell Waltrip getting passed by the car number 7 of Alan Kulwicki.
So that moves Kulwicki now to 4th. Waltrip will be in 5th position, and the 6th place car is this number 6 car of Mark Martin. There's Rick Wilson in car number 4, who is not shown in the top 10 at the moment. Now we see Martin going to the inside of Darrell Waltrip in turn number 2, and Mark Martin takes over that position.
Yeah, I bet Darrell wish he had made a pit stop, because we talked about not too long ago how well his car was working in the turns and was letting him stay up there. Well, others stopped during that last caution, got new tires. Darrell didn't, and that has taken that advantage away from him.
Jerry, can you add anything to the Bodine situation?
Well, I'm here in the Bodine pit. Let me ask Waddell Wilson, the crew chief, see if he can get a comment from Waddell. Waddell, what seems to be the problem? You're backing up a little bit. Is there a problem with the car?
We think we got a flat tire, but we're not sure right now. And if so, we're not sure which side.
Well, they're trying to decide here in the Levi Garrett pits, and another tough break for Jeff Bodine. Waddell Wilson would like to bring a driver in. More importantly, he'd like to see a yellow flag and get him in and get 4 fresh tires.
Of course, one thing, Gary, that he doesn't want is to cause the caution flag. Now, Gary, I don't know what would be the situation here. They said at Daytona when the radial tires would lose air that the driver couldn't tell it, and all of a sudden it just go away before.
Oh, Jeff is sideways, got bumped by Kulwicki. That's a very good point, though, Ned. Let's talk about that.
It's something the drivers are going to have to learn all over again. You know, they've learned to drive on bias splides. That's all they've ever raced on. Now they're trying to learn a new signal from the tires. When it's losing air pressure, what happens? When it's overheated, what happens? When it starts to break loose, like we saw Jeff here, well, he had a little help getting it loose, but,
yeah, I believe he did.
You know, look at him correct to the right. He did a good job. You know, he knows he's got a weakness. He knows he's got a problem, but what do you do about it? If you don't know which tire it is, do you stop for 4 tires? You can see where he's got bumped around on the right front fender a little bit. Maybe the tire's leaking down on the right front, but you don't know. The drivers are all going to have to learn this.
3-car battle here for position. Bodine, Alan Kulwicki, and Mark Martin. Martin and Kulwicki side by side in the first corner. And Mark Martin gets the left side tires off the racetrack just slightly. Still staying side by side with Alan.
You know, we used to have a kind of a rule that if the driver could tell you what tire, he called me on the radio and said it's a right side tire, then we knew it was a right side. If he called me on the radio and would say, I got a low tire, but I don't know which tire it is, then we always went to the left side, because if the driver can't feel it, usually it's the inside tire. But with radios, it may be a whole new story.
Here's Mark Martin moving around Jeff Bodine, picking up that 3rd position. Alan Kulwicki now moves in to challenge Bodine for 4th. Jeff gets a little wide going into turn number 1. Kulwicki moving alongside at the end of the backstretch. And Kulwicki may have position number 4 coming off the corner. Yes, he does. Alan Kulwicki is 4th. Jeff Bodine back to 5th now. Here is Darrell Waltrip, meanwhile, in number 17 coming on to challenge his teammate.
He moves the Tide Chevrolet up, tried to move by on the inside, and he might take the measure of him, even though Darrell's car is not working as good in the Turner as it was earlier, but he's still working better than Jeff Bodine. And here's the car number 15 of Brent Bodine coming following Darrell Waltrip up through the pack.
Boy, what a difference in horsepower between these two. Once Jeff gets straight, he really goes, but he's having problems in the turn.
Well, what we have seen is 7 cars get out on a lap by themselves. Everybody else is at least 1 lap down, but the competition among these 6 cars for the most part has been very good. Now, Earnhardt has been able to maintain the lead and quite comfortably, but we have seen good action involving Dick Trickle, who is now in 2nd, and then Mark Martin and Darrell Waltrip and Brett Bodine and Jeff Bodine. Another brother combination we are seeing here. We saw Michael and Darrell Waltrip battling for position earlier. And now we have Brett Bodine and Jeff Bodine. Looks like Jeff may be going off the pace even further.
He might be waving his hand,
yeah.
Yeah, he's coming into the pits. He just fought it as long as he could, and Jerry Punch is there waiting for him to come in.
You can see the damage on the right front.
Jeff Bodine having a tough break, having to make an unscheduled stop under green. They will go to the right side of the car and change those 2 right side Goodyear radials. Waddell Wilson said they just couldn't determine which side it was. They hope they've guessed right. They scamper around the car. 10.9 seconds. Great pit stop for Levi Garrett Crew, but he will lose valuable time on the racetrack.
In fact, he lost a lap, Jerry, during the slowdown period and picked it back up. So Jeff Bodine is 1 lap down now.
Now we saw a little bit of body damage on the right front panel as we watched the 7 and 17 cars battle for position 4th and 5th here. We saw a little bit of damage on the wheel area there on the right front of Bodine's car. Now, one of the things that the Hoosier people were saying, when there's contact between the radials, those relatively soft sidewalls would give way. Might that be what we saw there?
Well, it could be, but you'd think that would let the tire go completely away, Gary, if that would be the case.
It's hard to imagine he could have run that long unless it was just a very slow lead.
So we're nearing the halfway point now of this 400-lap race here at North Wilkesboro. The lead continues to be held by Dale Earnhardt. We'll be back right after this. Back at North Wilkesboro, where Dale Earnhardt leads the First Union 400 just past the halfway mark. But a good race for Dale Earnhardt so far, who began the competition this afternoon from that 3rd position inside of row number 2. Well, we arrived here on Thursday evening and came out for the action on Friday, Saturday. And here's Benny Parsons with a look at our pit notes and what happened during those days.
On Friday morning, Goodyear reintroduced a radial tire to Winston Cup competition. During practice on Friday, Richard Petty lost control, hit the wall exiting turn 4, heavily damaging the STP Pontiac, making it necessary to go home for a backup car. Rusty Wallace won his 2nd pole position of the year, but on Hoosier tire. Jeff Bodine on the outside qualified on the new Goodyear radial, as well as the 4 of the top 5 on the Goodyear radial. Saturday morning, rain until noon. Then Mr. Excitement, Jimmy Spencer, came back from a late pit stop for tires to win the Lowe's 150 modified race. In 2nd round Winston Cup qualifying, Richard Petty was bumped from the field. Other drivers failing to qualify were Bobby Hillen Jr., Phil Parsons, Jerry O'Neill, J.D. McDuffie, Mark Walbridge, Bill Meacham, and Kevin Evans. Ken Schrader and Eddie Beerswall were added to the field as provisional starters.
So it was a tough nut to crack getting into the field for this race. And there were several that you normally think of as regulars that did not make it. Now here's Earnhardt still leading.
He's still leading, but coming up behind is that green car of Ricky Rudd. Now Ricky is a lap down. When he passed Jeff Bodine, we saw him do that about 15 laps ago. He has run Dale Earnhardt down, trying to get back in the lead lap. Terry Labonte was in front of Earnhardt, and after the last restart, he has pulled away from Dale Earnhardt. So Earnhardt is not the fastest car on the racetrack, even though he's leading the race.
And there is the 2nd place car of Dick Trickle. They have a couple of cars between them. Earnhardt now maybe only 1 between them as Ricky Rudd passes Dale Earnhardt in the 4th turn and gets one of his laps back.
Well, I think that puts him back in the lead lap, Bob.
Well, he was 2 down, and I believe he may be still a lap down, but we'll check with
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was showing 2 leads.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
he's
he's 1 lap down.
Still 1 lap down. But he is running very good out there. So, and that was a good clean pass. You know, we've seen those two together last year here at the fall race and at Rockingham. We saw them get together, but this time very clean pass when they got together. That's good to see.
Well, I tell you, Dick Trickle just doing a fine job. He is closing in on the leader, Dale Earnhardt. Now there are no cars between the two. Benny Parsons is down in Dick Trickle's pit to talk with the pit crewman and the crew chief, Jimmy Finney. Go ahead, Benny.
Jimmy Finney, when Dick Trickle made the pit stop just a moment ago, you made a slight chassis adjustment. Seems like it's working for you.
Yeah, we took a little bite out of the car. It was a little tight on it. So it looks like it picked it up just a little bit. So we'll just see what the next little tires does.
When he says he made a slight adjustment, a half round, Gary Nelson, he just simply breathed on it.
Yeah, you're right, Benny. You know, he said he took a little bite out of the car. That doesn't mean literally. What they call wedge or turning the jack screws. What he did was turn just a little bit, a very fine adjustment. What I was saying earlier about these radial tires, they don't change. They stay steady, so you don't have to keep trying to compensate for it with chassis adjustments. Just very small adjustments make a big difference.
Jeff Bodine is right there behind Dick Trickle as he tries to take second from Dick.
Well, Jeff went a lap down
Yes,
when he made the unscheduled pit stop, so he's just trying to battle back up there to move around Trickle and then try to catch Earnhardt and get back in the lead lap.
They're both gaining very fast on Earnhardt. You can see him right there at the top of the screen. There's Earnhardt, there's Trickle, there's Jeff Bodine. Jeff wants to get his lap back by passing Earnhardt and Trickle. Trickle wants to get the lead by passing Earnhardt.
Trickle has 2 top 10 finishes in his 5 starts. As a matter of fact, top 5 finishes. He was 3rd at Atlanta and 5th at Bristol just last weekend. And you got to think that this guy may be on the verge of winning a Winston Cup race. He certainly is in a position to do so this week.
He certainly is. Today might be the day. That car is working well, and he's doing a great job of driving it.
Well, Dick Trickle is a racer. You know, Dale Earnhardt's a racer, and we've all documented and seen how well he's done. But Dick Trickle has raced in some of the more obscure racetracks over the years. You know, Dick Trickle has probably won more races than any stock car driver in the country, but they've all been in out-of-the-way places, you know, not top-billing races like Dale Earnhardt may have done in Winston Cup.
So Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Let's check our Napa race summary now. At the 200 lap mark, he had led 72 laps. The average speed 100.571 miles an hour. 4 leaders and 6 lead changes. There were 3 caution periods for a total of 10 laps, and 7 cars at the halfway point were on the lead lap. The leaders have been Rusty Wallace, who led just the first few laps from the pole position. Then Jeff Bodine took over, Dale Earnhardt, and Darrell Waltrip, and now Earnhardt is back in the lead. Those that are officially out of the race, only Jimmy Means at the moment is listed as out of competition. So we still have quite a field running as we're well past the halfway mark.
Harry Gant and Dale Jarrett had both made extended stays in the garage area for problems. Gant with a gear problem and Jarrett with the right front wheel bearing problem, but they both are back in there running now.
Well, Bodine, as you can see, has taken over second position from Dick Trickle. Ooh, Dick sliding off of corner number 4. So Trickle is now back to 3rd position.
Well,
no,
Bodine
I'm sorry.
still,
I keep forgetting that Bodine is a lap down.
Yeah, but he's about to get it back now.
Yeah.
He's trying to get back in the lead lap as he moves in on Dale Earnhardt. And that's what he needs to do. Of course, he has those fresh tires on the right side, and that's helping him to come off of the corners on the low side and really get traction.
Well, in Winston Cup history, there have been 4 drivers with wins in their rookie years. Shorty Rollins, Earl Ross, Dale Earnhardt, and Davey Allison. Could Dick Trickle add to that list? You can see his serial there. He started 10th and has been a steady progress up to a 2nd position at the end of 220 laps. Dick Trickle from Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. The interval between 1st and 2nd position. Let's see now if Jeff Bodine can get that lap back. Not able to at the moment, staying behind the leader Earnhardt.
One more week that we'll see these Monte Carlo Chevrolets racing, Bob, and then they'll use the new aluminum. course, we'll see them next week at Martinsville as Bodine tries to move down on the inside. They've been a good race car, whether it's on a short track or a big track.
And here it is. Maybe it is. Well, Earnhardt just will not give up the lap as easily as Bodine would like for him to. Now Jeff has a clean pass, and Bodine does go back on the lead lap. So we'll be back with more coverage now of the First Union 400 right after this. Stay with us. The top 5 at the end of 230 laps. The leader is Dale Earnhardt. Dick Trickle running second. Mark Martin is third. Darrell Waltrip fourth. And Brett Bodine is shown in 5th position.
Now here's Rusty Wallace coming back up on Dale Earnhardt. Remember, we saw him, here he is now in the screen, not too far behind Earnhardt. We saw him spin when he was almost spun out when he was trying to get one of his laps back. He's 2 laps down, but he has fought his way back. He was about a half a lap behind Earnhardt after he made that spin, but now he's getting back up there on him once again, trying to get one of the 2 laps back.
The number 6 car and the 17 car are battling for 3rd position. Mark Martin and Darrell Waltrip. Rick Wilson is there in car number 4. Looks like a little bit of damage on the left side of that car.
Yeah, he's got a few battle scars there.
And there is the 84 car of Trickle, so it is indeed a situation in which Mark Martin and Waltrip are both closing in on Dick Trickle.
Yeah, not long ago, Dick Trickle, when Rusty came up on him, Dick just moved over and let him go. He saw that Rusty was running a little bit faster than he was, so he just moved over and let him go and said, okay, get up there and get at Earnhardt. I'm going to sit here and ride in my 2nd position. I'm in good position right now.
Waltrip goes inside of Mark Martin. Martin sliding high on the track. And Waltrip able to take over 3rd spot.
That's amazing to run on less than full strength on the motor and still be able to pass for position. And really, he's almost gaining on Earnhardt. I don't think he's losing anything to the leader.
Well, I think what he lost a moment ago by not making a pit stop, the others have heated their tires up now, so he has gotten equal with them. Apparently, they get to a point, Gary, that they just stop slowing down and just stay very steady. And so that's what has happened with Waltrip. He's equal with them now as far as the tires are concerned.
Yeah, I agree exactly with that, Ned. That's what we're seeing. The tires might be fast for the first, say, 10 laps or so, and then they just level off, and then all the tires that are hot are all at the same speed. No differences after so many laps, I don't think.
Well, Waltrip had dropped back to what, about 6th or 7th place, has moved back to 3rd now, and is gaining on the car number 84. And is also gaining on Dale Earnhardt, too.
With the lack of tire wear that Benny showed us earlier, that tells us that the tires can really go all the way to the finish without wearing out. Tires shouldn't be a problem except for that first burst of speed you'll get from putting new tires on.
And there is Darrell Waltrip and the interval between himself and Dick Trickle. Trickle's got a little bit of traffic ahead of him. Clear sailing for Waltrip, though. He may catch Dick here in the next lap or so. There's Trickle, and you can see that Rusty Wallace and Hut Strickland and Larry Pearson are all ahead of Dick.
Look, here's Dale Earnhardt trying to put that lap back on Jeff Bodine. He has caught him once again. Bodine came up and passed Earnhardt. Now they get together as they go into the turn. Bodine goes a little high, and Earnhardt moves under. Have we seen the last of that? Well, let's see when they go down to the next turn.
Bodine had it sideways and saved it. Now Jeff is going to come back. Oh, he's sideways again, coming out of 4 as Larry Pearson is there to the inside.
Jeff's car beginning to move high in the turns once again, as we saw it a little bit earlier.
And here is Waltrip, who has caught Dick Trickle in the battle for 2nd.
You can see where Darrell really lets the car roll, trying to keep the momentum up so he can keep his RPMs as high as possible.
Darrell moving alongside of Dick in the first turn. Darrell Waltrip goes to 2nd.
I believe his car gets better as the tires gets older. It's amazing at how the car is sticking right down on the inside. A little bit earlier it would not stick down there. Here's Rusty Wallace trying to move around Jeff Bodine. Now Wallace is 2 laps down. Bodine is 1 lap down.
So the lead still held by Dale Earnhardt, but some great racing behind him in the First Union 400 at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. We're glad you could join us live on this Sunday afternoon for Winston Cup Racing. We're at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway. Our Speed World coverage of the First Union 400 is being brought to you by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge. By CarQuest Auto Parts Stores. You'll find it at CarQuest. And by Armor All Protectant, because we're crazy about cars too. 251 laps completed out of 400, race moving right along, and now we see Darrell Waltrip closing in on the leader, Dale Earnhardt. We could have a pass for the lead. Let's go quickly to Jerry Punch, who's in the Waltrip pit.
Well, they are ecstatic down here, Bob, the Tide pit. They said if this thing would go green the rest of the way, we could win this thing on 7 cylinders. You know, Darrell Waltrip didn't win 9 times here at North Wilkesboro Speedway, but not knowing how to drive it, and he is literally punishing this Monte Carlo, trying to get on the inside of Dale Earnhardt. Let's go up to Benny Parsons. Benny?
Jerry Punch, I'm with Paul Andrews, the crew chief on Alan Kowicki's car. He's dropping back, Paul. What's the matter?
Well, right now our brakes are fading a little bit. He's trying to be as easy on as he possibly can so we can try to do something on the next pit stop.
Okay, Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
Darrell Waltrip still working on Dale Earnhardt as Waltrip has the high groove and Earnhardt is to the inside.
Earnhardt is giving him running room out there, Bob, but Darrell has made his moves up through there by staying down on the inside of the racetrack. He wishes he'd give him the inside instead of the outside.
We'll see what happens here as Earnhardt passes or tries to go high and pass Greg Sachs.
And Waltrip tried to take advantage of that, but Sachs backed off going into the turn, so it let Earnhardt get back down on the inside. They're moving up on Bill Elliott to put another lap on him.
Bill Elliott is 1 lap down and is just about to go 2 laps down.
Well,
as we see the field rundown at the end of 250 laps.
Look how Darrell Waltrip can cut his car. When he goes into that turn, he can just cut it down to the inside and it sticks. That's the mark of a good handling race car, Gary.
Boy, it sure is. Darrell is very impressive, running down the leaders like he's done here, and really fighting to take over the lead on only 7 cylinders. That's amazing.
Bill Elliott coming into the pits as we watch this battle for the lead.
There you can see Bill listed in 13th position, but he's going to give up that spot as he comes in for a pit stop. And now Waltrip has gotten the lead from Dale Earnhardt. On 7 cylinders, the Tide machine takes over the lead from Dale.
Well, you know, one of the things as you watch Dale Earnhardt get on the throttle, he's got, as Elliott leaves the pits there, they've got, when you got full power and you hit the gas, you can tend to spin the tires a little bit. And if you don't have full power, you might be able to feather the gas a little bit better and get a little better traction off the turn.
So especially on a slick racetrack like this. This track normally gets very slick, and it is slick here today. Well, Earnhardt, here's how he did it. Earnhardt slips just a little bit high. Darrell took advantage of it and zoomed right on past him.
So what you're saying is a loss of the cylinder may have been an advantage instead of a disadvantage in that particular instance.
You know, in this particular case, yes, Darrell had probably the best car before he lost the cylinder. Then when everybody got new tires and they could get on the gas good, then Darrell's car wasn't competitive. But when everything was slick and the tires were getting hotter and less traction from them, the drivers have a hard time getting on the power. And Darrell, without that much power, doesn't have to worry that much about it.
Rick Wilson sliding high on the track. Darrell Waltrip won the Winston Cup Championship for one reason, because of his performance on the short tracks. Can you dominate the way that you did several years ago on the short tracks?
I think we're going to run awful well on the short tracks. We've learned a lot. We've changed a lot of things over the winter, and our cars are definitely better everywhere we've been. I think they'll be better on the short tracks. And motors is one thing we don't have a problem with. I've got the best motors in the business, and if we can hook the car up and take advantage of the power we have, then we'll be tough.
So Darrell Waltrip began the season with a win on the Super Speedway at Daytona, but he hopes that his success on the short tracks will carry him to the Winston Cup Championship. Let's go to Jerry Punch once again.
Well, gentlemen, we reported that Darrell Waltrip was on 7 cylinders, and I talked to Jeff Hammond again, and he and Sandy Jones and the crew, they believe that they're on 7 cylinders. They have called Darrell Waltrip, and Darrell said, you know, hey, the car is still missing badly. I'm not sure we're on.
Jeff Bodine spinning in turn 2. Sorry, Jerry.
NASCAR officials are looking to see if he's going to get it started again, and I don't believe he is. The caution's coming out. Now he does get it started, but the caution had already waved.
Go ahead, Jerry. Finish the thought if you would while the cars are slowing down here.
Well, Darrell's not really sure he's on 7 cylinders either. He knows the car is missing very badly and is sputtering pretty bad. They think they're on 7, but it just may be cutting out so much they're not getting the full use of 8 cylinders. But whatever the effect, they are having motor problems, and then Waltrip and the crew will be getting ready to pit along with the Earnhardt crew in just a moment. But they are just so impressed. They are just patting him on the back on the radio saying, "You are driving the daylights out of this car, DW. What a super job."
He indeed is. It's lap 264, and the leaders have taken the yellow flag and are slowing down on the backstretch. We'll see some more pit stops here in just a moment as we continue our coverage from North Wilkesboro on the First Union 400. Hickory is located about 40 miles from North Wilkesboro, and in the mid-'60s, the then Grand National cars were ready for the Holly Farms 400. Not only the cars, but the stars like Richard Petty. And how about our own Ned Jarrett, who won a Grand National Championship in '61 and in '65. Live in-car cameras came along in 1981, but even back then, Tiny Lund was carrying one as the field came down for the start. That's Elmo Langley in the orange number 64 and Curtis Turner in 41 on the front row. The task of driving the dirt was a challenge even for King Richard. Tiny Lund in 55, Turner in 41, and Roy Tyner in number 9 fight for position at mid-race. And here's a better indication of just how hard a driver has to work on the dirt. Tiny smokes it in just a little too hard, and although he's known as king of the power slide, finds himself headed in the wrong direction. But the '63 Daytona 500 winner will be able to continue. David Pearson in the Cotton Owens Dodge will take home the win this day. One of 105 career victories for David that has put him second on the all-time win list. Turner would follow David to a second-place finish. And of course, Hickory Speedway still in operation, and here are the top 10 in the First Union 400 Winston Cup race. Here at North Wilkesboro, the lead is currently held by the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt, and the 17 car of Darrell Waltrip is going to be shown in second position, and then there is Dick Trickle in third.
Fourth place would be Brett Bodine in car number 15, and running in the fifth place is the car number 6 of Mark Martin.
Here is Alan Kulwicki making a pit stop. They're pounding something there in the front end of the car, not concerned as much with the tires as they are with working at the front end.
I think they're opening up brake ducts. They'd said earlier that they had they had some brakes that were overheated. Now they're trying to get more air to come in through the front of the car to cool the brakes better.
Well, Jerry is down there. Jerry, is that indeed what's going on?
Well, that's probably one of the things they're trying to do. The grill is covered with a lot of rubber in front of the car, but they're also showing a lot of water coming out in the front. They probably have it overheating. They've been spraying a hose in the front grill section, and then now they've opened a couple of those vent tubes. And he comes riding by, but possibly an overheating problem. A lot of water pouring out from beneath that car while he was sitting here on pit road, gentlemen.
It was a water pump problem that was broken last week at Bristol that put him behind the wall for several laps. So the field is reforming now for a restart, and we'll get the green flag next time around. It'll be lap 271 when we go green. It's Earnhardt, Waltrip, and Dick Trickle, your first 3. We're under our 4th caution of the afternoon.
Terry Labonte was able to get back in the lead lap, although he's the last car in the lead lap. Well, Kulwicki will be behind him. They're going to have quite a run here to see if Labonte's got his chassis sorted out now.
Well, he had pulled away from Dale Earnhardt. We had mentioned that after the last restart, he had pulled away and gotten himself back in the lead lap when this caution came out. Then it did let Labonte catch up, so we'll see what he can do with the front runners. He's not too far back in the pack. He's currently, I believe, running in the 6th position.
Pace car pulls off the track, and a very slow restart. Now Earnhardt begins to pick up the pace as the green flag waves from Harold Kinder.
Boy, Neil Bonnet just ran all on top of a car up there. There's a couple of them were slow getting started on the restart, back in the back of the pack, but he keeps going.
Well, that was an awful slow restart that Earnhardt had. He was going about 25 miles an hour.
Rusty Wallace is trying to pass Dale Earnhardt and get a lap back. Can't do it. Here's Dick Trickle passing the 17 car of Darrell Waltrip, and this would be for second position. Dick Trickle and Waltrip battling side by side across the stripe. Still no clear-cut indication of who's going to wind up with this second. Now Trickle begins to pull ahead, and I believe he's got it. Yes, he does. Trickle to second.
And while that was going on, Rusty Wallace made a move on Dale Earnhardt, moved around, but here's Earnhardt trying to move back around Rusty Wallace. They got together a little bit when Wallace went by, and here's Earnhardt trying to repay the favor. If you call it a favor, are they buddies or are they buddies?
Well, they're sure not acting like it on the racetrack, although neither has suffered a whole lot of damage, but they're sure letting each other know that they're there. Boy, look at this. They're still banging on each other. Rusty sideways off the fourth corner. Oh, we got a big pile up.
Trouble up here in turn 4.
We've got Greg Sachs, Michael Waltrip, and Brett Bodine. And Rick Wilson nails Michael Waltrip right in the driver's side, and Lake Speed is also involved.
And
the track is almost
start-finish line.
Track is almost blocked up there. Here comes Rusty through, however, and he is going to get a lap back. But there is just all kinds of debris up in the fourth corner, and there is Michael Waltrip as he gets out of that car. He got nailed really hard in the driver's side, but as you can see, he is climbing out okay.
Yeah, and he looks into Rick Wilson. Now, they're big buddies. They live close together up on Lake Norman, and Michael looking in to see if Rick is okay. They pal around quite a bit with Kyle Petty, but the buddies getting together here.
Michael needs to get out of the way. If any cars come into the pit stops, they're both right at the entrance to pit road. There's a lot of oil and water there. They need to be off pit road quick.
We have a replay of what happened here as Lake Speed comes in.
Okay, the car number...
Looks like Brett
Bodine. It looks like spun sideways as he came around, and there's Michael Waltrip hitting him, and...
You'll see Lake Speed spin into the picture at the top of the screen here in a moment. There he is, and then boom!
Oh.
Well, he didn't hit Michael in the driver's side as much as he did in the left rear of the car.
That blue car was Greg Sachs, and the one up on the top side of the racetrack was Lake Speed, who was involved in an earlier accident, as we see Michael Waltrip walk down pit road after having another good run today, but looks like he's out of it.
Yeah, he certainly has nothing to be ashamed of. The car ran well, and he ran it well, but unfortunately, a problem up in the fourth corner has eliminated him, and Michael makes the long journey back to pit road.
Well, that was a hard collision where Rick Wilson ran into Michael Waltrip's car. You thought the wreck was almost over as we watched pit stops, Lake Speed getting new tires. You know, there's Brett Bodine. He was in the fourth position. I hope his car is able to run as good as it was running earlier.
The car number 66 of Rick Mast was also involved. He has some front end damage on the Banquet Chevrolet as you see him go out of the pits.
This is going to be a rather lengthy yellow because we've got cars to get off the racetrack up there in turn number 4. Plus, there is just a tremendous amount of debris that was scattered when the cars collided. So we'll take another break and be right back with more of our live coverage. We're back at North Wilkesboro. There is a damaged car of Michael Waltrip. It is stopped on pit road because apparently they drug a hole in the fuel cell as it was coming down pit road, and a fire broke out behind it, but you can see the extinguisher powder that's under the car, and everything is okay now. Now here is why Michael Waltrip's car was damaged. A replay of what happened up in turn number 4 just a few moments ago in a moment as we get that set up for you. But you can see that Dale Earnhardt did maintain the lead during that caution period. And Dick Trickle is in second with Darrell Waltrip in third place. And we must say that Dale Earnhardt didn't force the issue as there was a whole bunch of cars wrecked in turn 4. Didn't press the issue to keep Rusty a lap down.
It looked like Brett Bodine was trying to get on the inside of Bill Elliott as he came off of the turn and lost control of it. And you saw the yellow car of Michael Waltrip. And here comes Rick Wilson really flying and bam, right into Michael Waltrip. The blue car coming down pit road there now is Greg Sachs.
Now we'll see it from the vantage point of Michael Waltrip.
Okay, you can see up there that Brett Bodine has lost control, spins around, makes a 360 and wham, right into it. Now Michael tries to get his car to going. You can see he changed gears, but wham, that's when Rick Wilson came along. That hurt.
Scared me
sitting
to
here
death.
in the booth.
Wow, glad to see that Michael is okay though. Let's just watch this again. And this is Neil Bonnet's view of the accident. He's going to be right behind Lake Speed. There's Speed nailing Michael, and Boy, Neil had to take some evasive action and go into the pits to avoid the damage.
Well, I think what it was, Rick Wilson didn't have brakes. You saw him pass Neil Bonnet going into the corner as Neil let off the gas, hit one car, bounced off and hit. Look at the damage it did to the back of that 30 car of Michael Waltrip.
Just mangled it. Yeah, evidently Rick Wilson did not have any brakes because he did hit lake speed, knocked him up into the wreck, and then came by and hit the car number 30 of Michael Waltrip.
So no drivers are injured, but they still are trying to get Rick Wilson's car off the racetrack in turn number 4. We're under another caution period at North Wilkesboro. 281 laps of 400 completed. The top 5, Dale Earnhardt, Dick Trickle, Darrell Waltrip, Alan Kowicki, and Mark Martin. And once again, we will replay the crash that occurred up there in turn number 4 in real time. This is how it happened.
We're watching for Michael Waltrip's car.
Michael Waltrip climbed out of the car. Let's go to Jerry Punch, who's with him.
Michael, you did a heck of a job as a cameraman, but up there, I know you don't want to be a cameraman, those kind of exciting scenes. First of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I feel pretty good, Jerry. Just knocked me around a little bit.
You had a heck of a run going in the Country Time Pontiac.
Yeah, we were really running well. You know, we took off real good, and the car was just a little bit off, but we were better in that second long green flag segment, so I felt like we were going to be pretty good. And Brett spun out, and, you know, usually I make pretty good decisions about which way to go, and I guess I just didn't that time, and I ran into him. He looked like he was going to go high, and so I was trying to go low and hit him. And then I don't know what happened to Rick. We were in pretty good shape. It didn't hurt the front, you know, the car too bad. We'd have been in trouble for here, but the car wouldn't be totaled. And Rick ran into us for some reason. I'm sure somebody hit him or he had a brake problem or something, because I'd sat there and was trying to drive off when he hit me.
Tough break for Michael Waltrip, currently sitting 10th in the Winston Cup points. It will cost him a lot of valuable points here today.
Yeah, it really will. And I think once again we're going to see the point standings change considerably when we are finished with this First Union 400. We're on lap 285, and we'll be right back. Here are the top 10 with 287 laps completed. It's Earnhardt, followed by Dick Trickle, Darrell Waltrip, Terry Labonte, and Alan Kowicki. The second 5, Mark Martin, Ricky Rudd, Jeff Bodine, Rusty Wallace, and Sterling Marlin. We're going to talk to this guy who's currently running in second position. Dick, this is Bob Jenkins. Once again, you got yourself a super ride going. Can you win this thing?
Bob Jenkins, this is Alan Kowicki you're talking to, not Dick Trickle.
Okay, let's switch frequencies here. Best of luck to you, too. Can you win this thing?
Well, I hope so. We've had a little brake problem here today. My brakes seem to go away, and it seems like I lost them completely one time after a caution flag, but hopefully they've cooled down now and they're going to come back and make a good run. The car was working pretty well earlier.
Okay, best of luck. Dick Trickle, this is Bob Jenkins at ESPN. Can you copy me? Now, apparently not able to make contact with Dick Trickle, who's running second. Let's switch radios here and talk to Mark Martin. Bob, this is Mark. You got a copy?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Mark, this is Bob. Do you have a copy? Boy, I'm all messed up here. How's the Sterlite Ford running?
Hey, we're tickled to death. We changed, the boys in the crew changed all the setup this morning, springs, sway bars, and all kind of stuff. This is the best short track run we've had in a long time. If it goes green all the way to the end from here, we might be able to handle everything but Darrell Waltrip. And if Darrell has trouble, we might have a chance.
Mark, what about this tire situation? Are the Goodyears running well and then slow down, or is it pretty consistent?
Well, we think the Goodyears are superior. We are also set up to run long runs. We can't do anything with these guys for 30, 40 laps, but their stuff keeps slowing down and ours keeps coming. And cars that outrun us right after these caution spells, we get back and run off and leave them, you know, if we can run long enough green. So we're hoping this thing will get back to green and we'll go all the way. We may drop back a little, and then gradually we'll start coming and coming and coming.
All right, Mark, we'll continue to watch, and congratulations on a good run so far. All right, let's go to Benny Parsons, who's down the pit area with Rick Wilson involved in that crash.
Bob Jenkins, I'm with a man who's really sore right now, aren't you, Rick?
Yeah, that's about the hardest lick I ever took. You know, I hated it. You know, we come out. What happened? About half our brakes were gone. I was pumping them, and you know, somebody spun out in front of us, and I got about the second pump in, and I'd hit them. You know, it was a deal where I just couldn't stop, and I hadn't even slowed up. I was still just about full wide open. But I'm all right. Just want to tell my family home I'm okay, and I just hated it happening.
What did they say in there, the medical people? Did they say that everything is, they're working on your car, they tell me on the radio, you're not going to drive the car anymore?
They can get that car fixed. They're a pretty good bunch of guys, but I'll be out there ready to run it if I can, but it's tore up.
Let's go. They're going to go down to Jerry Punch, folks, and see if they can fix that car.
Well, what you're looking at is a yeoman's effort by the Kodak crew. Tony Glover and the crew are trying to repair this car, and Rick Wilson is scampering back this way toward the garage area. The front of the car is almost totally destroyed. They want to get him back out, at least to run some laps if they can at all possible. Runt Pittman, the engine builder, thinks the engine may be okay if they can get some of the frame pulled back away. You know, he's currently 8th in the points, only about 30 points out of 7th, and that's what happens when you got $1 million to win the points championship. These guys are here in the garage thrashing to get this car rebuilt. Bob?
All right, the cleanup on the track is continuing. I have my name written in my palm, and Ned and Gary, please wear name tags from now on in case I get messed up again. We'll be right back at the First Union 400. We are back in North Wilkesboro, and Dick Trickle is spinning in turn number 1. The green just came out, and Dick Trickle loses it down in turn number 1, but he keeps going, and I don't think this is going to cause a, yes it will.
Well, some debris on the racetrack on the front straightaway will certainly cause a caution. Maybe if that spin he did get going, as we saw earlier, as they raced back to the start-finish line, but there is some debris right at the start-finish line. A piece of metal off of one of the cars, and that, I think, is the reason for the caution as opposed to Dick Trickle spinning out.
I don't think they would have thrown the caution because of the Trickle thing if it weren't for this pretty large piece of metal that's down here right on the start-finish line that's now being retrieved. Now, here is a replay. Trickle goes into turn number 1, and maybe Elliott had something to do with it.
Yeah, he might have tapped him just a little bit as Trickle slid high in front of Elliott. And you can see Darrell Waltrip, Terry Labonte, and Alan Kowicki all scrambling to get down on the inside.
And here's another angle. Watch and see if we can pick up some contact. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think he might have touched him a little bit.
You know, one thing that's very interesting that we've been seeing today, these guys that are spinning keep driving their cars based on the drivers' meeting this morning where they said they may not throw the caution. Let's go to Jerry Punch and Jeff Wodine's pit.
It'll be a 4th tire change for the Levi Garrett crew. They pulled away some sheet metal beneath the rear carriage of the car underneath the fuel cell. Also, the Dick Trickle car on pit road getting some fresh rubber. Let's go up to Benny Parsons. Benny?
They're changing 4 tires on the car. They rode a couple of laps and talked it over on the radio. I guess they decided not to take a chance. There may be a flat spot on those radials. They came in. As you see, they're just completing the 4-tire stop. Dick Trickle is away.
That was a good smart move on their part to come in after the car spinning around. You don't know if you flat spot a tire or not. He probably didn't have his brakes on, didn't have them locked, but at the same time, it's better when you have this opportunity. You're not going to lose that many positions. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, he did.
For one more lap to go.
He did not lose a lap, just a few positions, and will now be in 6th position as there are only 6 cars on the lead lap. The field being realigned now for the restart as Harold Kinder has the finger pointed skyward and the caution flag in hand.
Look who that moves up to 3rd. Terry Labonte.
We haven't talked much about Terry this afternoon. He is the 3rd car there in line on the outside behind Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt, the leader, and Labonte is certainly not out of this. And when you come to North Wilkesboro, you automatically think of a Junior Johnson win, and we may have one yet.
You never know. He got a lap down earlier in the race. He fought back, got his lap back, and is now back in the thick of this thing. This is the farther stuff he's been in the field. Let's see what he can do. The green flag waves.
Lap number 297 clicks off as the green flag comes back out, and we are racing again.
Here's Labonte going after Darrell Walter for the 2nd position as they come off of turn 2, and he's going to have him going into turn 3.
Labonte moves inside and takes 2nd position from Darrell Waltrip. So now we got Earnhardt, Labonte, and Waltrip. Then comes Alan Kowicki, Mark Martin, and Dick Trickle, and those are the 6 cars that are on the lead lap. Earnhardt has 2 cars separating himself and 2nd place Labonte. They are Ricky Rudd and Rusty Wallace.
And both of those drivers want to get their lap back. They were 2 laps down. Each of them got 1 lap back. Now they're trying to get themselves in position so that they would own they'd be back in the lead lap.
Here's a battle for fifth. Dick Trickle, who spun a few laps ago, is trying to scratch and claw his way back up to where he was in second position as he looks for the fifth spot, which now belongs to Mark Martin in the Strollite 4, number 6.
Now remember, Mark said he was not too strong after the green first comes out. He said, we got to run a while before my car really comes in. Apparently it's a little bit tight with him, so he is having to battle Dick Trickle now for that position.
There goes Alan Kowicki, who is currently third, and Darrell Waltrip is fourth. And there's Bill Elliott also in car number 9, but he is not on the lead lap. Shown 1 lap down on the scoring charts is Bill Elliott. Whole string of cars coming here out of the 4th corner. Martin and Trickle. Trickle looks to the inside going into turn number 1. He may have the position side by side with Mark. Down the backstretch they go, and Mark pulls slightly ahead, but now as they go into corner number 3, Trickle with the inside line, and Mark drops back to 6th. Dick Trickle goes to 5th.
Trickle's car working very well. That spin certainly didn't bother him a bit, didn't slow him down any as Greg Sachs comes back into the pits. And back up to the front of the pack, Dale Earnhardt still leading the race, but car number 94, Sterling Marlin, is slowing down. But there is a battle up front for a couple of guys to try to get their lap back as we see Dick Trickle now move on the inside of Bill Elliott.
With Bobby Hillin Jr. having missed this race in the other Stavola Brothers car, Dick Trickle is certainly trying to carry the colors of this team, and he is doing so well. Now there is the leader, Dale Earnhardt, and those 2 lap cars behind him, Ricky Rudd and Rusty Wallace. We got a spin up at turn number 2. It is Larry Pearson going around and stopping on the grass at the bottom of turn number 2 as we saw Sterling Marlin come into the pits. Is there going to be a yellow? Yes, there is.
You know, it'll be interesting. Everybody should have enough fuel to go the distance. Now, what do they do on tires? Should you stop or should you stay out there with the older tires on the car?
And the race to the caution flag, and neither Rudd nor Wallace got their lap back. And Dick Trickle, there you can see, has positioned himself behind Darrell Waltrip. Began to close in on him, but Waltrip maintains 4th. We will take a look at this spin that involved Larry Pearson up in the 2nd corner.
You can see it's already sideways as other cars maneuver around him. Larry backs it down off of the track onto the grass area, but apparently the car died. He couldn't get it cranked, and so that's why the caution had to be flown.
So we are slowed again for the 7th time this afternoon in the First Union 400 at North Wilkesboro. We'll be back with our live coverage after this. ESPN Speed World today in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway for the First Union 400 Winston Cup race, and we are now less than 100 laps from the conclusion. Harold Kinder is signaling to the drivers that they'll get the green flag next time around. It is Dale Earnhardt who is leading the race. In 2nd spot is Alan Kowicki. 3rd would be Dick Trickle. 4th is Terry Labonte. In 5th place is Darrell Waltrip, and 6th is Mark Martin. Those 6 cars are on the lead lap, and those are the standings because of the pit stops that were made by some of those that I just mentioned.
Which included Terry Labonte, Darrell Waltrip, and Mark Martin on the lead lap. The other 3 drivers did not make a pit stop as the green waves again.
There's Rudd on the inside in the Quaker State green car trying to get the lap back. He's just 1 lap down, so if he can get ahead of Dale Earnhardt and then another caution comes out, he will be the 7th car that is on the lead lap. But Dale Earnhardt is trying to keep him a lap down. They are side by side as they cross the stripe. Now Earnhardt pulls ahead. Dale Earnhardt has not won a race in 1989. It's the first time since 1984 that he is winless in the first 6 events of the Winston Cup season. Now Earnhardt sliding high, and here comes Ricky Rudd on the inside. That's Jeff Bodine right behind this duo. Oh, some contact between Rudd and Earnhardt. But all is well. We have Dick Trickle spinning once again in turn 2, and this time Bill Elliott is going to be involved, as is Dave Marcus, but I believe everybody is going to keep going. Will they throw the caution? No indication. Yep. Now it comes out, and you can see the damage that has been done on the Bill Elliott car.
Yeah, that wheel is knocked back up under the fender, so they'll have some work to do on the Coors Ford to get him back out.
So we went for such a long time without a caution, and now we're seeing a rash of spins. Can we explain that? Is there any particular reason for that?
Well, it's time to go. You know, if you got something left, you got to be bringing it out now and try and make up some positions. With 6 cars on the lead lap, the 84 car really was trying hard. As you see Bill Elliott, he's got big problems. The whole suspension's ripped off on the left front.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get that car back in the race. Here's a replay, and Trickle there on the far left side of your screen.
And the car, just the back end, goes around. There's Waltrip going under him. Here comes Bill Elliott, tries to go on the outside, but gets pinned in. Could not help it once he made the commitment to go on the outside. And Dave Marcus came right up there on the same side. And Jerry Punch is right there in Bill Elliott's pit.
Well, heavy damage in the left front of the Coors Motorcraft Ford. Bill Elliott still sitting in the car, and the crew is taking the left front tire out. They're looking underneath the car. Bill, what happened up there, Bill? Hey. What happened up there, Bill? What happened up there with the car?
I have no idea.
Bill sitting in the car trying to determine how bad the damage is, and they are working on the champion's car here, the Coors Ford. So let's go up pit road to Benny Parsons.
Well, Dick Trickle has come in. They've changed 4 tires. They've looked around. They really haven't pulled any sheet metal away. They've done nothing to the car. So evidently, everything is okay in the Dick Trickle pit.
Yeah, both of those times that he spun, it's been a clean spin. He hasn't hit anything.
He has been a lucky soul both of those times because he was in heavy traffic when he spun, and yet he has come out relatively unscathed. There's some damage on the left rear of the car, but that should not affect the handling qualities of it.
Now the guy who got the worst of that deal was Bill Elliott. It probably broke a left front tie rod. The suspension in some way is broken on the left front wheel.
Well, Bill Elliott came into this race 12th place in the point standings, and of course he's trying to defend his Winston Cup championship, but the troubles do continue as they're working on the front suspension of that number 9 Ford Thunderbird, and Bill Elliott losing laps as the work continues. The green flag is about to come back out on the racetrack, and a resumption of the action as the pace car driven by Elmo Langley comes in, running through that oil dry that was put up there for the crash that we had in turn 4 a few laps ago involving Rick Wilson and Michael Waltrip and others. Here's the green. We're back to racing. 316 laps are in the book. And this time Dale Earnhardt gets a jump and is not, at the moment at least, threatened by either Wallace or Rudd, who are trying to get laps back.
In fact, Wallace beat Rudd back that time, but now Rudd trying to move on the inside of him. Rudd thought that he had Earnhardt as they were running awfully close together. He would get it beside of him before that caution came out, but was not able to make the pass.
Let's go down to Benny Parsons in the pits. Benny, Dick Trickle using somebody else's tires. What's that story?
Oh, you notice the yellow wheels on the 84 car. The bright yellow Michael Waltrip. They put those tires on the car. I asked one of the crewmen, why? And they said they had scuffed all their Goodyear radials, and they did not have any sticker tires, and that seemed to be better on their car, so they had to score around the pit area and find some new tires with stickers. Michael Waltrip was the car out of the race. That's where they found him.
All right. So we'll watch those yellow tires, rather rims, on the Dick Trickle car as we continue to watch Dale Earnhardt set the pace in the First Union 400. Second place belongs to Alan Kowicki. Third is Labonte. Fourth is Darrell Waltrip. Fifth, Mark Martin, and Trickle is in 6th.
That's interesting that they're running faster on the new tires. What they call sticker tires just means that it still has a sticker on it from when it came from the factory. But radial tires take a little bit of heating up, and almost all other forms of racing that use radial tires, they run on scuff tires that they scuff in their practice. You look at Terry Labonte coming in, along with Alan Kowicki here.
Labonte trying to challenge Alan Kowicki for the second spot. Terry Labonte only one top 10 finish in 1989. That was at Daytona. He finished 9th and has been involved in in an accident at Richmond. And we have a spin in turn 4 as Darrell Waltrip has looped.
And Rusty Wallace also is sitting up at the end of pit road as they race back to the start-finish line here. Here's Wallace now getting his car to going.
No yellow flag.
No yellow flag, so they just keep racing.
Well, take a look at it again and see if we can determine what happened in this instance.
Okay, here are the leaders. That's Earnhardt in the black car in front, Ricky Rudd behind him, and here comes Darrell Waltrip spinning around, and Rusty Wallace spinning around, both of them making a complete 360. The other cars go on the high side of the racetrack. Here's one red car slowing down behind Waltrip, but no caution. They just keep going.
That was almost in unison there. The two of them spinning and pointing in the same direction and driving away.
And our spotters tell us that there was contact between the 27 and 17 car that perhaps resulted in that incident.
Well, Barry Dotson said there had been contact between those two cars earlier in the race. And indeed, we showed that there had been slight contact once before when Wallace spun out, so
yeah,
who knows?
Rusty's had a tough time today. That's the third time he's been sideways or all the way around.
Dale Earnhardt continues to lead the First Union 400 as we are live on this Sunday afternoon from North Wilkesboro. We'll take a break and be back after this. Back at North Wilkesboro, the top five: Dale Earnhardt, Alan Kulwicki, Terry Labonte, Mark Martin, and Dick Trickle, and we are 328 laps into the race. Coming up next here on ESPN, Steffi Graf versus Gabriela Sabatini from Amelia Island, Florida, the Bosch & Loam Championship. That's live next here on ESPN. Dick Trickle was able to pass Mark Martin a few laps ago and take over that position as we watch Ricky Rudd's attempt to get his lap back. And here is Dick Trickle taking over the spot from Mark.
He moves up on the inside. Martin goes a little bit wide in the blue Ford number 6, and Dick Trickle moves around on the inside.
Despite 2 spins, Trickle still very much in this race. And Rudd, boy, he's just trying everything he can to get around.
Yeah, he has really fought hard. He got 1 lap back, now fighting hard to get back in the lead lap once. This would put him back in the lead lap if he makes the pass this time. Earnhardt, though, hanging tight.
Let's go down to Benny Parsons in the pit area. He's with Alan Kulwicki's crew chief, and yeah, I agree. Alan's got a real shot at this race.
The last time we talked to you, Paul, you had some problems, brake problems, and the car was a little bit loose. Looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, we are looking pretty good right now. We've still got some brake problems. We've opened up the brake ducts and let a little more air get in there, and that has helped. We still do have a slight brake problem.
What do you mean by brake problem? He's got to pump the brakes or what?
Yeah, they're just, the pedals fading, and he's got to pump them and not use as much brake as he would like to.
All right, we're going to let this guy get back because they are planning some strategy trying to win this race.
Well, Alan is in second spot, and he has really moved in on Dale Earnhardt just in the last few laps. Now he's got Jeff Bodine ahead of him and between himself and the leader Earnhardt, but Alan Kulwicki is indeed climbing toward the front.
And you can see Terry Labonte and Dick Trickle back there in the picture as well. They're running in the 3rd and 4th position. Labonte is running 3rd and Trickle running 4th, and Trickle has caught Terry Labonte. Here's Dale Earnhardt, and Ricky Rudd has moved around Dale Earnhardt and has gotten back in the lead lap. Here's the battle for 3rd.
That is Dick Trickle in the number 84 car moving to the inside of Terry Labonte, and it is now Dick Trickle that is going to move into 3rd position. And I'll tell you what, that guy has battled back from 2 spins here in just the last few laps, and now we see Mark Martin closing in on Terry Labonte. So Junior Johnson's Ford Thunderbird is losing some positions.
Yeah, we thought he might really be a threat here, but it's not quite the threat we expected after he had gotten himself back in the lead lap. And here's Larry Pearson apparently having trouble, a lot of smoke coming out of his car as we see Mark Martin make that pass. And we wonder if there's some oil on the racetrack up there because some cars were sliding up on turn 4, and the caution is indeed coming out.
The yellow flag is out. They round turn number 4, and Mark Martin is going to have that 5th position. And there's Harold Kinder waving the yellow. There was a considerable amount of smoke up there in the 4th turn, and that was because of the Larry Pearson car.
Now, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack for the last 200 laps has been Ricky Rudd. He was 2 laps down. He now is back in the lead lap. So this is the break that he needed.
Well, the smart thing for Rudd to do is get tires. Let's see what Earnhardt does. Yeah, they're all coming in for tires. Well, the 84 stayed out. That'll make Dick Trickle the leader on the restart with fresher tires on all the other cars.
Let's go to Jerry Punch, who's in the Earnhardt pit.
Goodrich Chevrolet coming to a halt. Should be the final stop here. They don't really need gas or tires unless the yellow would return again. Right side rubber going on the car. Kirk Shelberdine, David Smith, Will Lynn. They all scamper around the left side. Split screen, Earnhardt on the top of your screen, Kawicki on the bottom. Left side tires going on the Kawicki car. Likewise, left side tires now on the Goodrich Chevrolet. Earnhardt's crew has the car off the jack. Kawicki off the jack. It's a sprint down pit road, and Earnhardt will win the sprint back into turn 1.
And Mark Martin came out of the pits, and he had a tire in front of the car. It finally works its way loose, but the tire is in the racetrack in turn number 1. There you can see it. As he was pulling out, he just simply took the tire along with him at the front end of the car, and it finally worked its way off and now is being retrieved by one of the safety personnel down there in turn number 1. So Dick Trickle is going to be the leader of this race. There you can see those yellow rims that we talked about earlier from the Michael Waltrip crew. Michael out of the race because of a crash a few laps ago. They're checking over the track to see if there is any oil on it that was put down by Larry Pearson, who had some kind of a problem and caused this most recent yellow flag to fly over the North Wilkesboro Speedway. We'll be right back. With 57 laps to go, Dick Trickle leads the first Union 400. Waltrip is second, followed by Ricky Rudd, Dale Earnhardt, and Alan Kawicki. The other 2 cars on the lead lap are Terry Labonte and Mark Martin. Now, Dick Trickle has the lead. But remember, the car that has been as fast as any other one on the racetrack recently is the green number 26 Quaker State Buick, driven by Ricky Rudd, which has its lap back now and may be a factor.
Well, he just got blown off by Dale Earnhardt going into that first turn. Earnhardt in the black car and Rudd in the green car.
And Jeff Bodine gets out ahead of Dick Trickle. Now here is Dale Earnhardt with Rudd on the inside of Darrell Waltrip. And oh, Trickle is sideways again in the 4th corner. And here comes Earnhardt now to challenge for the lead. And Earnhardt has the lead from Dick Trickle. And Ricky Rudd is sideways.
Yes, he is. He got awfully loose as he came off of turn 2, and he went way back in the pack. Here's Earnhardt moving back up on Rusty Wallace.
Once again, those two are pounding on each other as they have a couple of times this afternoon.
Now, Jeff Bodine has gotten back in the lead lap.
Yes.
And Rusty Wallace, too, has gotten back in the lead lap.
So there are legally now and technically 9 cars on the lead lap, although 2 of them are almost a lap down.
Well, we'll see what Mr. Earnhardt can do about putting them a lap down again. He certainly would like to, but naturally they want to stay out there. They'd love to see a caution right now.
Trickle hangs on to 2nd position. And the 11 and 17 and 6 cars are battling for position. Here comes Labonte, Mark Martin, and Darrell Waltrip. Mark Martin passes Darrell.
Ben Hess, the rookie driver in car number 40, hanging right in there with those lead cars.
And he is listed as 10th position at the moment, as here comes Alan Kawicki to challenge Dick Trickle for 2nd position. Trickle a little loose again, it looks like, there in the first turn. Kawicki looking to the inside as they come off the 2nd corner. He's going to pull alongside Dick Trickle at the end of the backstretch, and Alan Kawicki goes to 2nd position. We talked about Ben Hess. He is shown unofficially in 10th position, and he joins the growing number of rookies that have finished in the top 10 in 1989 on that list right now. Rick Mast, Trickle, Hut Strickland, and Larry Pearson. There is Rudd.
Yeah, he dropped way back in the pack. He seems to be running okay now, but he got out of shape down there and lost a lot of position, so he has a lot of ground to make up.
Well, Dick Trickle dropped back to 3rd after the restart. He's Dale Earnhardt, here Jeff Bodine, Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt, and Alan Kawicki all had new tires. Dick Trickle decided to stay out there with his older tires. That gave him the lead, but these guys shot by him on the restart. I really thought Dick Trickle was making a good move. We'll have to see how it works out here at the finish.
Well, while Dale Earnhardt has to worry about Rusty Wallace, whom he is now alongside of, and Jeff Bodine in front, that's simply giving Alan Kawicki the opportunity to catch up just a little bit more. Now Earnhardt goes inside of Rusty Wallace, and we have a crash here on the main straightaway. Ben Hess, we just talked about him a second or so ago as turning in a fine performance.
Now let's watch the race back to the line. He's sitting just past the start-finish line. Jeff Bodine is going to beat Earnhardt back, but Rusty Wallace will not.
Now, Rusty tried desperately, got the car a little bit sideways in corner number 4 as he accelerated and tried to pass Dale Earnhardt, but he did not get the lap back, but Jeff Bodine did, and so now there are 8 cars on the lead lap.
And Rusty looks over at his buddy Earnhardt and said, why didn't you let me get my lap back, friend?
Ben Hess drives away after hitting the wall here on the main straightaway. And the yellow flag out again on lap 355. Here comes Wallace and Trickle in for pit stops.
Waltrip, Rudd coming down pit road.
Ben Hess, who was involved in the crash. Benny Parsons is in Dick Trickle's pit. Go, Benny.
Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, they put on those 4 new tires. They stayed out there. It was not the right thing to do. They're back in. They're going to put 4 new stickers on again. Jerry Punch is down in the Darrell Waltrip pit.
Well, both Waltrip and Ricky Rudd are pitting, putting 4 tires on. A break for Rudd. His car had been slipping and sliding. He thought they might have had a tire going down. So this yellow flag, a big break for the Quaker State team. Waltrip and Rudd now moving down pit road, as is Dick Trickle back in turn 1. Gentlemen.
All right, Earnhardt and Kowicki and Terry Labonte and Mark Martin choosing not to come in for a change of tires, but Waltrip, Rudd, and Dick Trickle did come in for a change of rubber. Well, it's going to be anybody's race. I think that if ever we were in a situation, at least so far this year, in which there are about 6, now many as 8 cars that have a shot at it, I think we're seeing it today. Earnhardt certainly has been able to maintain the lead, but there are others that can, I believe, win this race.
Yes, there are. In fact, I'd say there are about 7 others. I think any one of those on the lead lap have shown strength enough today at one time or another to win this race. But Earnhardt, boy, he's been up there every time. Sometimes his car would go back off a little bit, but it seems like the set of tires he has on now, even though the radials, you don't get a bad set, Gary, and a good set, but these seem to be working very well for him.
Yeah, it looks real good. I think what we have coming up is what Benny Parsons might call as a barn burner.
Yep, I think it's going to be interesting. Fans, don't go away, because we're about to get the green flag. See what happens again.
Pace car off the track. Field begins to accelerate, and lap number 357 is in the books as the green flag comes back out.
And the first exciting thing is that Rusty Wallace trying to get his lap back, and he does get in front of Dale Earnhardt. There's Alan Kowicki right on the back bumper of Earnhardt.
Right behind Earnhardt, Alan Kowicki and Terry Labonte. Now looks like that Wallace is driving away a little bit from Dale Earnhardt as Kowicki is involved in the pursuit of the leader.
Boy, Rusty Wallace has been struggling all along to get those 2 laps back that he really lost by starting on the Hoosier tires. The price he paid for winning the pole has been this struggle all day to get back into the lead lap. Finally, he's in the lead lap. Now he needs a caution.
And around the outside of Ernie Irvin comes Ricky Rudd and Dick Trickle. Irvin in the number 2 Kroger Pontiac. Waltrip, Rudd, and Dick Trickle all involved in a battle for position. Here's Rudd going inside of Darrell.
Couldn't quite do it there. Darrell closed the door, but here comes Rudd back off from turn 4. They get together a little bit as they come off of the turn, but Rudd has the measure of him going into turn 1.
Darrell wobbling coming off of corner number 4. Boy, and now Dick Trickle is wobbling out of turn 2.
Poor Darrell, they've been knocking him around quite a bit. You know, he's down on power, but once everything settles out, he can run pretty good.
Meanwhile, back up front, it's Earnhardt and Alan Kowicki. They're only separated by about 2.5 or 3 car lengths. Kowicki closing in on Dale, coming off of corner 4. Kowicki may be in a position to win his 2nd Winston Cup race ever, and there is 3rd and 4th, Terry Labonte and Mark Martin.
So you got a Chevrolet out front, and then you have 3 Fords. Those Alan Kowicki, Terry Labonte, and Mark Martin.
And as you indicated earlier, the Monte Carlo in its final performance next weekend at Martinsville as the new Chevy Lumina will be debuted at Talladega the first weekend of May. along with the smaller restrictor plate. That should be an exciting weekend, and we'll have all the action for you live here on ESPN. Now Martin, you can see some hand gesturing maybe to Terry Labonte the last lap or so, as Martin tries desperately to take over that third spot currently held by Labonte. He's going to go high on the track this time. Let's see if he can get it. Drag race down the backstretch. Labonte holding on for the moment. Here comes Martin back.
Well, Terry gave him some running room, and Mark's taking advantage of it.
Going into turn one, I think Martin may have him this time. They're still side by side, but now Martin does complete the pass.
Meanwhile, Rusty Wallace has just driven away from Dale Earnhardt, so he's comfortably in the lead lap. You saw the yellow car of Jeff Bodine coming back into the picture. He got his lap back a moment ago. He's running in the 5th position, so he's about to move up on Terry Labonte.
There once again, first and second, Kulwicki and Earnhardt.
Kulwicki just kind of riding there, it looks like. He knows he needs to have his brakes in as good a shape as he can have at the finish. He knows his brakes have been getting hot on him, so he's got to take it easy now, have something left to try and get around Dale Earnhardt right at the end of the race.
Kulwicki went into this race third position in the point standings and wants to move up some more. There's Trickle and Ricky Rudd racing side by side. And Trickle passes Ricky Rudd.
His car has been working good down on the low side of the racetrack, and certainly did that time. Now he's moving up on that battle of Jeff Bodine and Ricky. No, Ricky Rudd is behind him, but Jeff Bodine is moving up on the 11 and 6 cars. The battle continues for the lead.
So for the moment, it is Dale Earnhardt still leading the first Union 400, but Alan Kulwicki is knocking on the door. We'll be right back. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Gary Nelson, Jerry Punch, and Benny Parsons back in North Wilkesboro in the closing stages of this 400-lap race here in North Wilkesboro. The story is Dale Earnhardt and Alan Kulwicki. They currently hold first and second positions, and it's a tight race with now less than exactly 25 laps to go. 375 are completed.
They have pulled away comfortably from the car number 6 of Mark Martin, who is running in third place. But some good battles going on back in the pack, as we saw 3 of those cars there just for a moment. Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd. Davey Allison was in there, but he's not in the fight for the lead.
Oh, Earnhardt with some contact with Eddie Birchwell there in turn 1.
Yeah, he came awfully close. He has to, of course, on short tracks, you have to hug those cars very tight going into the turns when you go on the outside of them. He comes up on Dave Marcus now. Dave moves to the inside of the track. Sometimes you get a little too close.
Here's Terry Labonte and Dick Trickle. This is 4th and 5th right here. Been a good run for Terry Labonte despite some early problems. Dick Trickle has battled back from 2 spins, has been one of the leaders of this race, and still finds himself right up there in contention. You can see he's kind of pounding on the back of Terry Labonte. And some contact there. I think Dick had a little bit of influence on that particular position change.
Nudged him just enough to get him loose and drove by on the inside. See if Labonte will return the favor.
That 84 car really stays low in the middle of the turn, like you said earlier, Ned. Darrell's car was working that way also.
Let's take a look at that again as he made the pass with Labonte. Tried to get back to him there, but couldn't quite do it. Here he goes down into the turn, runs in on him, taps him just a little bit, gets Labonte squirrely, drives by on the inside, and said, see you later.
That's an old short track trick. I wonder where Dick learned that.
Yeah, I wonder. It's still Earnhardt leading Alan Kulwicki. Now there is a little bit of racetrack between them two.
Yeah, he's picked up a little bit of distance as they came through some traffic. Earnhardt got through it a little bit better. Now you can see Rusty Wallace. We said a moment ago that Wallace had run away from Earnhardt. Now Earnhardt beginning to pick back up on Rusty Wallace and beginning to pull away from Alan Kulwicki. Of course, Wallace at the tail end of the lead lap.
Well, if somebody's going to do something, they better start doing it right now, especially Alan Kulwicki, because the laps are clicking off the first Union 400 near its conclusion. Dale Earnhardt continues to lead, and he is once again trying to put Rusty Wallace a lap down. You can see the battle scars on that number 27 Kodiak Pontiac. Rusty has been as many as 2 laps down. He's now on the lead lap, but at the tail end of the lead lap. And there is the second position car of Alan Kulwicki, number 7. Let's go to Benny Parsons. Tires has been the story all day. What's your story, Benny?
Well, most of the competitors, Bob, was hoping that the used tire, the used radial, would be as good as the sticker. We saw this afternoon that the cars had to put the stickers on for that extra little bit. If we had just got by with the used tires, think how much money the competitors would have saved. What I've got is Jimmy Finning, the crew chief for Dick Trickle, has been named the TRW mechanic of the race. With more is Jerry Punch.
Well, we talked about at the top of the show, Benny. You know, we may be seeing history in the making today, as this man here, Leo Mel, has led the Goodyear charge. And Leo, you got to be happy about the performance of these radial tires.
I really am. The Eagle radials ran great today. I'm really proud of the engineers and production guys. They sort of did this project. A lot of people said it wouldn't work, but it worked great today.
A lot of people said it wouldn't work. Took a lot of guts to come back after Daytona down there, and they have proven that they can hustle and get the job done here at Wilkesboro. Gentlemen?
Well, indeed, the radial tires have performed very well, and our hats off to them, as Earnhardt and Alan Kulwicki now have less than 8 laps to go in this race, and Kulwicki sneaks right up on Dale Earnhardt. He may have the lead here. That's Rodney Combs at number 60 in front. Kulwicki is going to challenge for the lead, and at least it looked like he was going to. And now he tries to get his nose to the inside of Earnhardt coming off the second corner. Dale Earnhardt won this first Union 400 in 1986 and in 87, and looks for another win here in 1989. There are 4 laps to go. Kulwicki pursuing Dale Earnhardt.
And they're coming up on traffic there. He puts the bumper to him a little bit as they come off of turn 2. And Earnhardt holds the lead, but Kulwicki really working on it.
Here they come off the 4th corner. 5 more laps to go. Kulwicki once again inside. He may have him here. They bump, it looks like.
Yeah, they get together just a little bit there. They touch again as they head up the backstretch and into turn 3. Earnhardt gets it down on the inside. That's where he needs to keep it. But Kulwicki put the bumper to him as they come off of turn 4.
Just some great racing here. 4 more laps to go. Will it be Alan Kulwicki or will it be Dale Earnhardt? Or will those... Oh, and Kulwicki slides! And he's going to save it, but he really loses a lot of racetrack, and there perhaps goes his chance to win the first Union 400. A valiant effort by Alan Kulwicki, but it looks like that cost him the race.
Yeah, I think it did. I think that just put him out of contention now with only a couple more laps to go.
You've got to admire Dale Earnhardt. Nothing rattles him. He just keeps driving his groove, his way, and somebody comes up behind him with all the pressure. It doesn't change Earnhardt a bit.
Dale Earnhardt entered this race in 4th position in the point standings. He is going to move up significantly. 2 more laps to go. Harold Kinder will show the white flag next time around. It is Dale Earnhardt from Kannapolis, North Carolina, who started the race in 3rd position, who is about to win. He has less than 2 laps to go. Off of corner number 4, and Earnhardt receives the white flag. 1 more lap around this 5/8 mile track, and here is a battle now for 2nd position as Mark Martin is trying to challenge Alan Kulwicki for 2nd. Martin is up high in number 6.
Almost got into the wall, but here he comes on the outside again as they go into...
Here comes Earnhardt off the corner. He's going to win the race. The battle is for 2nd position, and who's going to take it? Kulwicki wins by 1 car length. Oh! Close action there for 2nd position, but it was taken by Alan Kulwicki as Mark Martin tried but couldn't get the job done. And I believe that Dick Trickle is going to finish 4th and Terry Labonte unofficially in 5th position. So Dale Earnhardt breaks the winless streak and comes home a victor in the first Union 400. Remember what he said after Richmond when he went into the points lead? He said, I was going to 2nd and 3rd him to death. Well, he really meant that he'll settle for that for the Winston Cup Championship. But of course, he wants a win, and he got one this afternoon as the Richard Childress crew celebrates Dale Earnhardt's victory here at North Wilkesboro this afternoon. We'll be back to talk with him in Victory Lane after this. First Union 400 is complete at North Wilkesboro, and Dale Earnhardt has won. Alan Kowicki second, Mark Martin third, Dick Trickle finished fourth, and Terry Labonte ended up in fifth position. There was a tremendous effort on Alan Kowicki's part to take over the lead, but he didn't quite accomplish it, and this is how it all happened. Here he is working on Earnhardt coming out of 4.
He bumped him a little bit coming out of 4, tried to get on the inside as they go into turn 1. Earnhardt on the outside. Kowicki's car, the back end breaks loose. You can see it looked like the right rear wheel was almost off the ground, and he goes almost to the wall, loses any chance he has of winning this race.
But he did indeed hang on for second. Let's go to Jerry Punch with Alan.
Alan, one heck of a job today, partner.
It was a good run for us with the Xerox AC Winter Ford Thunderbird, and we had a problem with our brakes all day. The front brakes would fade and go away, and I'd lose them after the caution. And I really had to baby them all day. The track got really slick. You had to back off going into corners, and we ran out of brakes at the end there. I saved them all day. They went away completely a couple times, and they cooled them down, and they came back. And at the end there, with about 4 laps to go, there was nothing to save them for. I gave it all I had, and I came with a fender or so of getting them, but he knew he had a race on his hands. It was a good race for the fans. It was a clean race between us. That's the way I like to race, and I think we're in this for the long haul. I hope we stay up there the rest of the year.
Well, I tell you, Alan Kowicki did a heck of a job. Alan, those last couple laps, you almost had him in turn 1 down there, and the car started to skip on you.
Well, what happened was the front brakes just went away, you know, and you have no front brakes and all rear brakes, and it would lock up going into corners, and I just got sideways and slid the rear wheels, and that was it, you know. Not making excuses or anything, but it would have been a hell of a race if we would have had some brakes there.
Finishing second for the 3rd time this year, totally exhausted when he came out of the car. Alan Kowicki. Alan, yes?
Yeah, my crew did a really good job, too. You know, our pit stops were getting better. We matched them at the end there, almost beat them out, and we're coming on strong. It's going to be a good battle. I'm looking forward to it.
Kudos to Paul Andrews and the rest of the Xerox crew. Bob?
Alan Kowicki maintains his position in the points at 3rd. Well, let's go down to Victory Lane for our Sears Winter Circle interview, being brought to you by America's best-selling replacement battery, the Sears Die-Hard, and Benny Parsons is in Victory Lane.
And I'm with the guy, Dale Earnhardt. Super win today.
Well, it was, Benny. I'd like to thank good Lord for a good day here. You know, the car ran good. Good wrench, and all the guys did super job. Richard and all the crew, they just did super. This car run good, the engine and everything. And you know, just like to thank everybody. Say hi to my daughter, Taylor Nicole. I told her I was going to win this one for her today, and been promising her for a while. And also got to get a little plug in for Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet. You know, you can go down and buy a car tomorrow at cost, anything on the lot. The one-day sale, the Dale Win sale.
The Dale Win sale. How about the Goodyear radio?
Well, it worked real good. You know, everybody put new tires on and can beat us if we'd had 40, 50 laps, but the tires did super. I like to thank Goodyear. They, you know, developed a good tire. Everybody was skeptical about this tire, Benny, and we practiced with it up here, tested with it, and then when we practiced yesterday evening, it just felt so good after you ran it for about 10 or 15 laps, and I could really start punishing it then. There at the end, Rusty helped me up a little bit when I was running my groove, and I got sort of off my timing, and once I got back on the timing, I was okay. He started, you know, Alan run me hard there, but he punished his tires and got out of shape. So, you know, it paid off just to be a little cooler and stay, you know, keep that throttle down and just be smooth.
Well, Dale, we on television and the fans loved it. Congratulations. Bob Jenkins?
All right, thank you, Benny. Congratulations to Dale. A bit of a winless streak ends here this afternoon. It had been 15 races since Dale Earnhardt won at Bristol. So the top 5 finishers reviewing it once again. Earnhardt is your winner. Alan Kowicki finishes in 2nd. Mark Martin 3rd. Dick Trickle was 4th. And Terry Labonte finished in 5th position. Well, next Sunday, we'll have same-day delayed coverage of the Panhandle Sweatshirts 500 from Martinsville. We hope you'll be with us for that. And we will see you on Speed Week this Thursday night at 7:30. For Ned Jarrett, Gary Nelson, Benny Parsons, and Jerry Punch, we thank you very much for joining us. Once again, the winner of the First Union 400 here at North Wilkesboro this afternoon was Dale Earnhardt. And Earnhardt now reassumes the points lead in Winston Cup. This is Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone.